It will tell us. Yes, we're live. So let me just check. Hey. Let me just check that we are live on YouTube and Facebook. And then we can get into it with Peter from Stol Coffee, which is such a small part of who you are and what you do, but we'll call you Peter from Stol Coffee.
I'm quite big, so it's around 120 kg to defragment.
I think we're good. We are now. We've got a if anyone's doing, we can see. So welcome to everyone listening recorded on the audio podcast. We are actually streaming live with Peter from Stol Coffee. And what I think it's important to note the date in these things. It's the 1st of March, 2022. So if you're watching this, years later, the stuff that's going on is it's St. David's Day. Russia and the Ukraine are embroiled in a heavy load of stuff that I'm sure we'll probably talk about at some point. And it's just important to note that. I think the backdrop of how lucky we are to be able to be sat in our homes, not worrying about that, whilst there are people right now, literally in fear of their lives and all the stuff, the conflict that's going on over there and the rest of the world. But that's in the news today. So for anyone listening, recorded and later on, that was the time. It was 2022 and Russia had declared war, and off we go. So I'm here tonight with, and it is tonight. I normally do the podcast in the day, so this is a nice change as well. Nice way to spend a Tuesday evening. So I'm here tonight with Peter from Stol Coffee, and Peter is so there are certain people in this world that inspire me, and the people that inspire me the most are the ones that get their hustle on no matter what's going on. And if there's anyone that got his hustle on no matter what's going on, I would say Peter from Stol Coffee during COVID is one of those people, and your relentlessness at showing up consistently. So that's another thing that I admire in people is consistency and patience and showing up anyway. The fact that you show up with a bike. So for those that don't know Peter from Stol Coffee, I'm going to give a little bit of background, but then Peter, I want you to tell us what you do and how you do it. I'm going to tell you the bits I know. So the reason I know Peter is that, for those of you that don't know, I go and hang out with the dawn stalkers in Penarth at the seafront at dawn every Sunday morning and get in the freezing cold water that is the winter sea at the moment, and it gets warmer in the summer. And Peter, you're there every day almost. I think we have no coffee Mondays, and you show up all over Penarth. And for those that don't know Penarth, it's on a damn big hill. And Peter has a bike that he delivers, and you come around on a bike with coffee and the most outstanding cookies that anyone listening to this who hasn't tried a Peter cookie has to come to Penarth to try a cookie. They're like a meal in a cookie. I've never experienced anything like it. And I'm a chef, so I've tried a lot of cookies. They're one of my favorite ever cookies, especially when I've just got out of the freezing cold sea. And you show up consistently, and you've managed to build a business with effectively to keep it really simple for people listening. So anyone who goes, oh, business is so complicated, you've created a business and a lifestyle with a bike, albeit, a bike that has kit to be able to carry quite a considerable amount of weight. You make cookies, and then you show up and you talk to people. And what I love about you is you really freaking care, man. You give a shit about people and the world and what's going on and all of that. And that's literally what you do for a living. You brew delicious coffee, you make amazing cookies, and you talk to people. And what's coming out of it is this amazing, Penarth's already good at community, but it's just taken Penarth to the next level of community connection, people cross-sharing, the fact that it's almost like you and Dawn Stalkers, you and Grant came out of the same thing. And anyone who wants to know what the Dawn Stalkers are, there is a podcast episode with Grant Zettmeyer all about that. And you guys are just creating this magic in Penarth. I've seriously had conversations with Owen about moving to Penarth because it's just epic down there. Mm-hmm. So, Peter, I don't know where I think I want to start from way back. Just tell us who you are. Give me a pit stop of, where you grew up, your childhood, what happened to get you to the point where we're talking about now, so that everyone gets a sense of who you are and where you come from.
That's a heavy topic to unpack, definitely. But
I got that. That's why I like long podcasts. And for anyone wondering, we're probably going to go for an hour and a half, 2 hours tonight. So there's plenty of time.
Well, look, with the cookie story, I bake every evening, and I use that time not just to bake, but also to take time for myself. I listen to stuff like that because that's how I can develop and learn and be better tomorrow than I am today. But first of all, thanks for having me, because it's an
Pleasure.
opportunity to be able to have those meaningful, long format conversations. And most of the time, we don't give ourselves the time to have those. And I love it. And I grew up with, I don't get along with my father very well. Our relationship is better than it was, that's for sure. But with my mother, we would always have those conversations, and I grew up with that. And it's something she really believes. There's no taboo topic with my mother. She would talk about contraception to me when I was 12. She would talk about drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, sex, whatever, you name it, And I appreciate that because, back in the day when she was growing up, you just don't talk about stuff. Like now we don't talk about
Still
Bruno.
don't.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
and and back then it was just like, you just go to work and you fight Soviet Union because it was 80s and 70s, which is really, a topic we're probably going to be speaking about. This is why what's happening in the Ukraine right now is very close to me, because I'm originally from Poland. My family is still there, and Kiev is not far away. It's literally like
Yeah.
4 hours drive from my hometown. So
Yeah.
I'm looking closely in the situation, and yeah, and I think it's been worrying for sure. It's been worrying me and worrying people I speak with, and I need to say that people in Penarth and the community we created over here, I think it's we create, coming back to what you said about Grant and me, we celebrated something which already exists, and we celebrate it in many different ways, which I'm gonna say in a minute. But to start, my name is Peter. I moved to Penarth 4 years ago. I got a partner, Miss Naomi Burke. She's sitting there and laughing at me, and I've got 2 kids. And I start in the beginning of pandemic. I quit my job and I started this cargo bike, coffee, cookies venture, surrounded by a wonderful community in Penarth. And the idea was that I wanted to celebrate that community, and I wanted to bring you something quality, something I care about. Because if you can't come to the coffee shop and we are in lockdown at the time, maybe the coffee shop can come to you, and maybe you can have those meaningful conversations as we would always have in the coffee shop I worked in. So so that's the beginning of it all. It's always about trying to find a way to be closer to the people I care about, because Penarth's community welcomed us, the foreigners, the people from outside, with open arms and say, hey, we're here, nice to have you, and how are you doing? You go on the street and people ask you how you're keeping. And look, I worked in London for a very busy restaurant, for Celebrity Chef, and you coming from similar background, I was a
Which
head
chef?
for Jamie Oliver. So
Uh-huh.
I was a head trainer for one of the restaurants, or I don't know whatever I would call it, a trainer for the floor. And at some point, for the 4 years, I trained like 20 people or 15 people or something like that. And I really loved the idea of doing something fresh every single day, caring about it. It's hard work, it's passion, it's knowing where things are from. And then something happened where it all kind of was lost in translation, and it wasn't really that great anymore. And people started bringing frozen garlic bread and sous vide, packaged bolognese, and then the very famous Kitchen Nightmares episode by Gordon Ramsay, when the guy is saying, well, Chef Mike baked everything or cooked everything, which is a shortcut for microwave. And it's like chefs became people who are microwaves and ovens and reheaters, and I think passion was lost. And this is what I started thinking, why is that? Why business needs to be built around the idea that if you really want to make it work, you've got to create some systems, that's for sure, because to scale things is extremely hard. And they done it because they wanted to they wanted to have consistency across the board. And when you have 70 something restaurants in the UK, you need to have that consistency. But this is maybe where you grow too fast, too quickly, and too big, and the why doesn't cascade down to every single worker in the community you're trying to build. And again, it is about community. It is about connecting the right people with the right people. And if it means that you're starting to rely on the cheap labor, people who don't care, they don't want to be there, but they need a job,
Yeah.
well, then maybe you connected the wrong kind of audience, right?
Mm.
And this is just a part of the story in my journey, how I moved away from home when I was 18 to Ireland. I fell in love. I was heartbroken, and then brushed off homelessness a little bit, busked on the streets to get some money for food, and had a lot of struggles at the beginning just because my father told me I'm going to be back in a year, and I said no, I won't. I'm going to make it work no matter what, and then you kind of make it work. And then years later, met Naomi. Then we moved to London, worked for Jamie Oliver because I was inspired by one of his TED Talks about sugar, how it's added to everywhere, and we have to know where
That's
things
a
are from.
brilliant TED Talk.
Yeah.
Really
It's
good
amazing
talk.
when he comes with this like 500 kilograms of sugar and
Real
puts it
barrow,
on
yeah.
super cool, and it has an impact because you realize, oh shit, my kids drink this flavored milk at school,
Yeah.
and I had no idea it has added sugar.
Yeah.
It says it's strawberry milk. Strawberries are good for you, right? And we can talk about this forever. The food industry is so challenging sometimes to understand for average consumer. Like, why everything has added sugar? Go to Tesco and find me pickles with no added sugar, soured stuff like pickled with just herbs and dill and whatever else.
Well,
just
yeah, just
like
salt, even
sourdough.
just salt and water, like not even vinegar,
Yeah,
but sugar's
yeah.
everywhere, isn't it? It's massive.
Exactly. Yeah. And I understand, it's all about finding the bliss point, because otherwise it doesn't sell, and it's quite challenging to, run a business when everything is supposed to taste the same, because someone somewhere found this amazing bliss point where we love the perfect acidity, the perfect sweetness, the perfect bitterness, if bitterness, but it's not really desirable quality. But coffee is naturally bitter, can be, but it's not only bitter. Coffee has so many different compounds, and we need to focus on finding the compounds and extracting the compounds which are palatable for our palate. But there's 2,000 of them in one coffee bean. So then the question is, how do you scale that? How do you extract the right kind of flavor? Well, this comes with knowledge and understanding where the product comes from. So you go back to the farmer. That's why I only work with direct trade, which is above, way beyond fair trade, because you actually know the farmer.
Wow.
Sometimes to the tree where this coffee came from, and it's seasonal. So every 6 months, every 4 months, we're going to have a different coffee, and maybe it's not perfect for the mainstream industry because they love consistency, or maybe they're just trying to make something as cheap as possible so they can extract as much as possible from the consumer and not give back in any shape and form. Into the pocket. Well, we have to change it because it doesn't work. We've been in this for 50 years and something is not working. And the question is, what is it? Business is about money. It has to be. It needs to make money in order for you to make it a sustainable journey. But can we do it better? Can we do it better for first of all, for yourself, first of all, then for your family, then for your community, then for the planet? And these were my thoughts when I worked for hospitality still in hospitality, but on different terms, on my terms, which are challenging terms, but the most rewarding in the same time. So the question for me, the biggest thing was like, do I want to contribute into something I don't believe in? And I wanted to change that because I couldn't, I had this t-shirt when I worked for this company, work hard and be nice to people. That was the tagline, and I'm like, yeah, thank you for the t-shirt. I appreciate that. I can take it home. And then I started thinking, but what does it actually mean? Or like, people will come to the coffee shop I worked in, and if you ask me how am I doing, and then you ask me for the follow-up, did you actually want to know, or you just do it because it's a polite thing to do? And it's like, I appreciate that, but you actually didn't want to know. Why did you waste your 2 seconds of your precious time to ask me how am I doing? And I'm standing in this coffee shop and thinking about all those things, and I'm like, I'm not a slave. I want to work hard, and I am nice to people. I don't need a constant reminder. I can't connect with this. I can't be myself because I feel like I'm being watched, judged all the time. And it's not the issue is deeper than owners of the businesses. It's a huge system created in a way that in order to make money in coffee, you need to have 5 coffee shops. This is where it all starts. Oh, I need 5 coffee shops. I need 5 coffee shops, because then money doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up. Why? Because you've chosen to be on the high street with super high rent, crazy overheads, that you need to have everything on the menu and you need to copy and paste from your competition, what's going to happen? Why would I come to you if you do exactly the same thing as Starbucks, maybe just a little bit better? And you spit out a lot of, hey, this is how we do things, and try that, and get one, buy one, get one free, get 10% off, and come here. And we're just manipulating you, not inspiring you to come and get something from me. So this is why my business is about conversation and inspiring you to be a better version of yourself, because coffee does exactly that in the morning. It's inspiring you to maybe have 2 minutes for yourself and rethink your life, hopefully. If not, at least it will give you a punch in the face, you wake up. Yeah. So either way you win. And that's why I'm here. And obviously the idea of together is better, which I have here. And I don't know, you can see it.
I love, do you know what I love about the sayings in your business? Is that the sayings in your business, so in my book and as part of, all the my programs, we have the same things, but completely, we came up with them separately, and then it's like, oh my God, there's the same stuff. So I've got standards, you've got your t-shirts and your stickers, and it's like they're the same. It's just so aligned. It's beautiful, and it's true. It's together better. And I just want to say at this point, people listening who don't know you, and especially people who are thinking about starting a business or in business or struggling at business or new at business, it's really important at this point to say you sell coffee with or without milk and cookies. And often you have 2 flavors of cookies, raisin or chocolate. And sometimes we all get lucky and you have chocolate orange or you have cranberry, but generally coffee with or without milk, raisin or chocolate cookie.
And also there is no dairy. It's all just oat milk, and I have no sugar. I have no sugar. I have no syrups. I have no cakes.
Do you know you're the reason I don't have sugar anymore? So
big thing, yeah.
So my whole life I've struggled with all kinds of addiction. People who have listened to this podcast and know me well know I've gone from everything: drugs, workaholism, smoking, alcohol, working out too much, even turning that into an addiction. So I've upgraded my addictions to be, better. And I'd still teeter on work addiction. It's why on a Tuesday evening I'm doing this, not, sat doing something else. And I've always consistently had, I don't have loads of sugar, but I have 1 sugar in tea, used to, 1 sugar in tea and 2 sugars in coffee. And I'd be like, it's only a little bit, but I drink 5, 6, 7 cups a day, 4 or 5 teas.
You're better than Grant. Well done.
That's a shitload of sugar, man, like shitloads. And for years I've tried to give up, not like the taste, come back to it. And, I've been on this massive health journey ever since I was probably started in personal development. And you were the right time, the right person, the right place where I was like, I got to deal with this. And you just went, I don't do sugar. Taste it. It's great. And I drank your coffee and I was like, and I swore, I was like, if I ever give up sugar and coffee, I'm giving up coffee. Like when I gave up alcohol, I gave up cigarettes because those two kind of go well together. And I really missed the cigarette with the coffee and the Mars bar, but I still, coffee has carried on, but with the sugar. And I was like, there's no way anyone will ever get me to drink coffee without sugar because it tastes like shit without sugar. It's the only thing that makes it good. Well, I had 2, not 1. And I had your coffee. And it might have been a combination of the fact that I was really freaking cold because I've been in the sea. But I drank it and was like, hey, that tastes good. And between you saying that and another friend of mine, Kevin Birch, who's also been on this podcast, showing me that he puts some coconut cream in his coffee or he puts cream in his coffee, which I'd kind of tried on and off. I was just like, do you know what? If you sack off the sugar and put that in and you have good coffee, there's just no need. And ever since that day, I've never had sugar. And what I love about that is you had the balls to say to people, no, I don't have sugar. No, I don't do lattes and cappuccinos and herbal teas and decafs and this and this and this. This is what I do. And you don't even have to buy something from me to talk to me. If you don't like coffee, that's cool, man. Just have a chat or have a cookie. And in a day and age where we're told you have to be everything for everyone, and like you were just sharing about Starbucks and you've got to have this big menu and offer everything, I just love your balls in saying, hey, do you know what? Coffee with or without oat milk. So there's a whole other conversation there, right? It's not even dairy milk, it's oat milk, no sugar and cookies, and that's it. And it's working. And
there's something you need to I think everybody needs to understand that that my choices of how I build a business came mostly from a point of struggle. So I don't have enough money to put a machine on the bike. I don't
Yeah.
have enough money to have a strong enough bike which would actually hold the machine.
Yeah.
And then I looked into all those things, because 95% of the people I've spoken to who are my friends in the coffee industry and hospitality told me this is not going to work. My
Yeah.
parents told me this is not going to work.
Yeah.
The only person who believed in me, and not the business as of the whole thing, because it was kind of hard to understand what the hell is this going to be, even for me. I knew that I just wanted to be closer to people, and I needed to make it sustainable, so I needed a product. And I'm passionate about coffee, and this is what I would drink most of the time. So let me do this and see how it works. But it's a point of struggle. The only people who believed in me was Naomi and a guy I used to work for, Ian Brody, which I'm eternally grateful for his advice at the beginning, and still being there. And this is where you need to ask yourself the question: why are you doing this? Because if it's for the money, you're gonna give up. And well, bike broke after a week. So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so you would give up after a week, basically, because when the frame completely snaps, what do you do then?
And
You
that's
just
after
yeah.
everyone's already told you it'll fail.
Yeah.
And so you've got all of that going on. You're like, I'm going to give it a go anyway. So again, anyone listening, really listen to Peter's story, because Peter did it in spite of what everyone said, which I am forever talking to my clients about. You've got to follow your dreams, and you did it. And the point when your bike broke, it would have been so easy to go, they were right, I'm going to give up. And you didn't. So what did you do? You fixed the bike?
Yeah, well,
Carried on?
touching on the point of struggle,
Mm,
when you know why you want to be out there, it doesn't really matter that much what it is you're going to be doing.
mm,
First is the why. First
yeah.
is the purpose of it all. Like with the podcast, like, why are you doing this? You want to help people to reach financial freedom.
Yeah.
And you do it through a lot of different things. First of all, is this podcast, it's social media, is getting that first, maybe a group on social media to have the conversation going, bunch of forums, and then maybe they come on the course and they'll dive in a little bit more once they take a leap of faith, because it costs a bit of money. You need to invest in yourself, right? So, but you have a clear why, and it comes from your point of struggle and from your story. And you just mentioned on addictions. Every single experience in your life teaches you something, and I used to refer to that as a backpack full of stuff, and you carry that backpack with you all the time. And at some point, when you go through some struggle, you're like, hold on a second, I've been through something similar. You take it out, I was like, oh yeah, that's what it was. Okay, I know what to do now. Never forget about what you went through in your life, because it's so important. Everything teaches you something, but you need to allow yourself to be able to learn from your experience, not pushing it away. Pushing it away is never going to teach you anything. Bike is breaking after a week, and I phoned the guy, and I was like, the guy who made it was like, hey, WFT, like or whatever, look, this thing broke. I know I'm big, but come on. He was he was so kind that that he came almost the same day. He welded it, but it was the first DIY project. Then he refunded me most of the money. Okay, so look what happened now. I didn't give up. I'm phoning Dave, and I said, Dave, what is going on? He welded the bike. He welded it at the angle, so I'm cycling like that, and that's why it breaks all the time. But 1.5 years later, it's still there. 2-3 welds later, I just, like today, I worked for free. I spent 65 quid on the wheel, and my net didn't exceed 65 today. So I paid to work today, right?
Yeah.
But you why you do it. So
And that's
you
business
keep
as well,
going.
right? It's important for
Yeah.
people to realize
Well,
that.
yeah,
You
yeah.
take the rough with the
I
smooth.
mean, if you ever been at a seafront, you see how waves come in and out, in and out, in and out, and it keeps going, and it never stops. It's like a self-perpetuating thing, and that's what business is: in and out, over under, over under, over under, constantly. You just want to make sure that if you look at the graphs, it slowly goes up, or at least it's some kind of level. But it will go like that, sometimes more. It's like it's all waves. So I'm calling Dave. He's like, what the hell? And he welded it for me, and then he paid most of the money I spent on the bike back. Oh, perfect. Now I have another month to figure this out. I bought some time because I took action. I didn't give up. Then I was cycling more and more and more, and trying to figure out, how do I deliver, where do I deliver, and I had, I remember that time when I had 35-pound day. It's like I had maybe 2 deliveries, and I'm sitting down on the grass, and I'm like, I don't know, what the hell did I do? I quit my job, I spent all my money, and I will have no money to pay the rent this month. And then and that was the first and the last time I thought about and worried so much about my turnover. And since that moment, I think what happened was that my ex-customer from when I thought about that, I was really down, and I was literally thinking, I'm gonna come back home. What am I gonna say to Naomi and the kids? Or one at a time, because we were expecting a second one. So that's another story there. And and Jeff came, and he was like, "Oh, what's that? What's going on? You're sitting down here? Well, I thought you were doing deliveries or something." And I was like, "Well, I don't know where to go," And he was like, "Well, give me a cookie, and then let's walk together." And we just had a little chat. Nothing really happened. But what happened? He didn't do anything. He was just there, and we had a little chat. And I told him about, no, I don't really know what to take it next. He didn't tell me what to do. He was just there to listen. And I realized that that was a really important few minutes, because it's like a snap, and you snap out of that cycle. So when you struggle mentally, and you're sitting at home and sitting on the couch, and you're having a 15th glass of wine, you know what? Go for it. Well, unless you're gonna fall on your face, then don't. But go for a walk. Yeah, break that, whatever you're doing, because it's not working for you. You feel shit, and instead of going for a walk and rethinking everything and changing the perspective, you're feeding your addiction, right? And so it's so hard to do, and the most difficult thing is to actually take that first step. But then it's easy. I can guarantee you that once you take the first step, it's so much easier. And that's what Jeff did. He allowed me to change my perspective, and that's a very, very valuable lesson I've learned. But hey, 6 months later, bike broke again, and I was like, well, okay, well, and then I was thinking about crowdfunding, but I knew that I don't have enough following. But yet anyway, I knew why I'm doing this. I had the Together is Better mission. No, it was Be Positive mission at the moment. The whole campaign of being positive is not about being naive. It's about realizing how that you're in the big shit, and what can you do about it, and changing the perspective again. But so yeah, I crowdfunded, and it was GoFundMe. So it's not a Kickstarter, it's GoFundMe, when people pay you money for free and they're not getting anything back. That's the hardest bit to do, because you're not paying for the product, you're just paying because you believe that someone has value and you want to see them continue doing it. And I raised 7.5K in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, well, this is about financial stability. This podcast is about learning how to think outside of the box when it comes to money making. When you chase the money doesn't happen. But when you stop chasing the money and starting to chase something you deeply believe in, with the money aspect in it, I think then the change happens, and then the shift happens. But it happens from your own work you do on yourself first. So recently I talk about this thing: think inside out, not outside in.
Oh my God. I swear, we're like kids from another mother. I have a realities and inside out job, is the way I say it.
Okay.
And I am forever, do you know, I love what you just said. I am forever banging on to my clients to stop chasing the money, follow your dreams. And the way I talk about it is you follow fulfillment. So when people are chasing money, they're chasing results, and they're chasing the result of money. And then they just get empty. It's nothing. And they get money. Maybe they don't get money, but it's just empty. When they chase fulfillment, which is what you're talking about, they get the money anyway, but they get it inside of fulfillment. So they still get the results, but it's done with fulfillment, and it's just magical. And I love that you're saying that without me saying it, because I say it again and again and again. And it gets to a point where people just go, oh, Alex Louise is waffling on again. She's always talking about following your dreams. Why isn't she in reality? Why doesn't she talk about the real thing? Why doesn't she talk about money? How do I get the money? And I'm like, you get the money, but you do it that way around. And it is so, I just love it when other people say it, because it's like, it's not just me. It's true. It's a thing. Like, do
but
that.
Massive disclaimer to everybody. I haven't done your courses, and I have no idea what's in it, right?
Yeah. And you've not read my book because it's not published yet. And, so like literally you are just this, and I just love it. It's just brilliant. And that's what you do. I think that's what, to be clear, everyone told you it was crazy. Everyone said, don't do it. And you were like, no, this is important and it matters to me. And this is why I'm doing it. And when you followed that, look what's happened. And out of, you didn't swap a product for £7,500, just for anyone that missed it, because you said very quickly 7.5K. Peter said £7,500 was raised to get a bike because that's how much people believe in you. And I think
actually, it's more now because it's over £10,000 now overall. Because that's a crazy story again. How I got a new bike, wasn't fit for purpose, had to get BBC X-ray program involved to actually get the money back. I got the money back, and then I did the research to find a different bike and different company. And they said, well, now it's going to be costing this much with this configuration. And it's like, oh, and then you have to wait actually another 5 months, so it's like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And that was still okay, because just the bike is 4.8K or something like that. So I was like, oh yeah, that's enough. But then I forgot, oh, it needs a box on the front. It's a cargo bike. Yeah. Okay,
that's just the frame. That's like you're still not selling coffee with that bike.
So I'm going to the carpenters and I'm like, okay, what's the next step? And then he was like, yeah, cool, we can build it, fine. I was like, okay, I've got £1,000 left. I hope it's enough. Yeah. And then he comes back with a quote of 3.5K. Materials are expensive. Just materials to the project, 1.8K. Plus his labor. This is 50% margin. That's not much for his work. Yeah. So, and it's a local guy, he started in lockdown. Very, he's a good bloke what he's doing. And that's not considering a paint job, branding, and graphic designer who needs to redraw stuff because it's going to be a different size box. So overall, we're probably going to be around 9 point something K for the bike. Yeah. So now the crowdfund is around over 10K.
And how do people who are listening who don't know you or are inspired by your story and want to give to that? I mean, we can put the links in all of the comment, in the YouTube kind of thing when this gets produced, but just how do people, you have a Patreon thing now? Is it just there, or how do people add to you, and how do you give people the gift of giving, which we'll talk about in a second, because you're magic at that.
Well, the best way to support me right now is this. It's probably Patreon, but that's a monthly subscription. And if you can't afford that, you can go to GoFundMe. Find me on social media. Instagram is the best. Stol Coffee on Instagram, STOL Coffee, as you see on the screen, and you can find out more of what I do. And that hopefully will inspire you. And
your videos are so inspiring. For anyone listening, just follow him on Instagram anyway, because your videos and even how you get the text and everything, and your videos are just awesome. If anyone wants a little bit of Peter in their lives on just now and again, follow you on Instagram, because they're just brilliant. The stuff that you share is so inspiring. So they can find you on, what are you on Patreon? It's like / something.
/ Stol Coffee as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. So if people Google Stol Coffee, they're going to probably find most of these links. I just want to touch a minute on subscription, because it's really important, because when people say subscription, it's like, oh, whatever. I didn't know you did that until you shared something and I saw it and I was like, oh, what is this? And I was like, stalking you online and seeing what you were doing. Separate to, stalking you to find out for this podcast, just because I, genuinely love what you do and how you do it. And I love the pay it forward model and being able to do that. So when you say subscription, it doesn't do it justice. What you do is you allow me monthly to buy someone else a coffee and a cookie, right? That's how I have it.
Yeah.
And I pay £5 a month, and I know that someone else at some point somewhere I've changed someone's day. They've had a cookie and a coffee if they couldn't afford it. There's something I want to say to you, which I got talking to Grant the other day. So I was happy to give more, but I wanted to give and I guess I probably could do multiple subscriptions, but I invite you to add on there to allow people to buy someone a coffee and a cookie each week and also each day. Because the only thing that you miss, and I love your Patreon thing, and I even text you because you were like, wow, thanks for, subscribing or whatever you said. And I was like, thank you for giving me the gift of giving. Because actually it's really selfish. I feel so good when I did that. It's like people go, oh, giving is such a selfless act. It's like, is it? Fuck. I felt so good when I did that. It cost me a £5. It was the best £5 I spend every month, right? I invite you to let people give a coffee and a cookie a week to someone, and also a coffee and a cookie a day, because there are plenty of us out there with means who want to add. But giving, for me, just giving to a charity where I don't know who it's going to or what it's for, it's meaningless to me. If I can support something and someone, because it's not, I think, for everyone to get as well. When I buy someone else a coffee and a cookie, I don't just support them, I support your business, right? Because you've just sold a coffee and a cookie. You've just done it by the purchaser was someone else. So it also grows your business. So I just think as well, for anyone, sat doing business, what a genius idea to facilitate that. But there's no way, like, I wouldn't, I don't even carry cash. I wouldn't sort of think to go, oh, Peter, here's £5. Can you, like, next time you see someone who wants a coffee and cookie or you want to give one away, please just do that. I'd never think to do that. But you actually facilitated me being able to give and other people being able to give, which also grows your business. And I think it's like you touched on earlier about how when you were working for Jamie Oliver, it was all there and the food was amazing. And then it got commercial and it got dead and it got bland. And we don't have to grow enormous businesses to make a difference and to be with people and to make a good living. And you find ways of doing it. And I just love that. I don't know what the word is. It's not even entrepreneurialism. It's like hustle. It's like, how can I make a difference and build my business? And it's taking that, you're fulfilling on what's important and you're feeding your family. It's like, and if people can get that it's not one or the other, it's not go after the money or be wholesome and great. You can do both. And it's like you personify that, literally. And we kind of joke about capitalism and making money and all of that, when I'm buying a coffee off you, but like you literally managed to do that.
It's hard because you need to find balance. And that's the biggest, that's the biggest challenge. And it's with anything, my struggles always been my weight and being overeating. And it comes from since I was 6 or 7 years old, how I would go to my grandmother and we had a funny relationship there between my parents and my father's mom. She would feed me. I would be afraid of my father. So he would tell me, hey, you're fat. Don't eat in your grandmother's house because she's feeding you the wrong kind of stuff. We're going to give you dinner here. Go and see her, fine, but don't eat. But I was 7 and I was 6, yeah? So I would stuff my mouth with food and then come back home and eat a second dinner because I was afraid to say that I ate something. You didn't want to
say, I've already eaten.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
That comes from, and then I broke my leg when I was 10. I was out of life for like a year and a half, and I was just lie down. I had multiple surgeries. It was challenging times. I was homeschooled for a while, and this is another story how your point of struggle physically and mentally as a kid when it's June, it's hard, you want to play outside with your friends and you can't because you're on the strongest pain medications they can give you at this age, and you can't sleep for a month because there are like metal spikes coming out of your leg because you're broken in multiple places, and I appreciate.
What did you do?
I played lots of PlayStation. PlayStation 1 at the time. I just played games, and it's like they tell you, oh, read books, you gotta learn, you gotta do, and at some point I kind of, you want to get used to it, and I think we're much more resilient than we think, and I think the world wants you to be soft because the world is a beautiful place. Okay. It's a wonderful abundance and everything. It's enough for everybody. And just because there's 8 or 9 billion people on this earth, we have enough food to feed everybody. We have enough of everything for everybody. And it's nothing to do with any religion, God, or economy, it's just about humans being human and being good. And we are born good, but something happens in our lifetime when we just go sour and bitter. And that anger carries on.
I think people go into survival, and then it's like it's all about survival, and it's all about me, and I've got to take what I can, and I forget everything else, and it's a paradox, right? Because then no one survives.
The infamous story of toilet paper during first lockdowns. It's like, give me all this. It's like, why? Out of all the things, why toilet paper?
I'm still confused about that one. I'm like, really? Yeah. What? Like what?
Yeah. So I think so that's what I wanted to point out, that I am positive about the world. It's a wonderful place, and yes, there's a lot of stuff going on which aren't that great, and the world is never going to be perfect and ideal. But what I wanted to say is that the mainstream narrative wants you to be soft because they want to make money off you in some kind of shape and form. There isn't anything wrong with it until people start suffering, and no one tells you that you're suffering. You feel like it's a norm, and once you're in this for long enough, you start thinking straight. And this is how we get anxious, we get depressed, we're looking for some alternatives, and most of the time it leads to addiction because it's the easier way out.
Yeah.
And I think it's not fair, and we need to change it in some kind of shape and form. But so I'm grateful for being bullied at school for 10 years, for my father not appreciating me because I'm different, for him abusing me mentally and physically, because that's the way he was able to deal with his own stuff. I'm grateful for when I broke a leg and I couldn't move for a year, and I grew, I gained so much weight, and I'm grateful for struggling in Ireland when I was 18 to 21 or 3, and being heartbroken, and meeting so many different people. And then I'm grateful for the time in London, and I think every single story here has some kind of positives, and it also have some negatives. But finding the teacher in this is the most beautiful thing you can do, not just for others, for yourself first. So then you can, as you say, show up every day because you care about something. It comes from somewhere. It doesn't just came out of thin air. You have to do that work. Otherwise, life doesn't make any sense. Life doesn't make any sense because you never really appreciate the suffering you experience in life. And everyone experiences some sort of suffering. Don't tell me that you don't have a story to tell. Of course you do. Everyone's got it. Like there's so many people who tell me, but I don't really think that anything really amazing happened in my life. I was like, you're full of shit. Of course it did. Of course it did. You've forgotten. Like right now, I'm trying to remind myself how to be a child again, because I've been on this meaningful journey all the time. Like I just posted, James Richardson, who is a photographer for John Stalkers, which is another story to tell, how you show up every single day to come and take photos of people in the cold water. And yesterday I went into the water and he took some photos of me, and I was like, hey, James.
I saw the photos, they're brilliant. Like, comments on WhatsApp going, that's an awesome photo. I love it.
And I'm like, do you want some silly faces? And she's like, what? Yeah, do you want some silly faces for your photos and see how it goes? And he took the sequence of me doing stupid faces, and this is the part of me trying to be a child again, to remind myself that life is fun, and you have to have fun as well, not just struggle. And that's just finding the balance bit, which is so hard,
we get so serious and so cynical and so miserable, and then we wonder why we get aches and pains and cancer and decrepit, and it's so true. If we could just all lighten up and not take stuff so seriously.
So I tell you, so I'll give you one sentence to sum up where I am right now in my life. Okay.
Cool.
My father's got cancer. My back is not okay. The bike is breaking. I don't have a new one yet. And today was a shit day when it comes to sales. And last month I worked for free because I had too many expenses and I didn't make a penny, right? Or didn't make enough to pay the bills. So I have to tap into my savings, which are for something else, for emergencies, or like when I need to see my father because he may be dead in 6 months. Yeah. I'm telling
Where's
you that.
your
Not
dad
because
now? Where does he live? Is he in Poland?
he's in Poland. Oh, and Ukraine. Yes. And that story, which worries me as well because it's close to the border. Yeah. So, okay. So how do you deal with that? Yeah. I'm telling you that not because I'm trying to tell you that, oh, please, I'm so sad, whatever, for me. I'm telling you that because there is a reason behind everything what's happening in your life. Not to say that, oh, poor me and whatever people will, but it's a story to tell for yourself, and experiencing life in this most beautiful way you can is about appreciating what comes to your way. And sometimes that appreciation will come towards, oh my God, it was amazing. We went into the water, we had pizza, and we shared the fire, and we had marshmallows, and that's the Don Stoker's first birthday, right? And it was great. I came in and I
love that happened. I was gutted I couldn't go. I was at a workshop, one of my groups on Saturday, but I love that you did 7 a.m. This is what I love about the Dawn Stalkers: 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Fire, pizza on the beach, marshmallows, swimming in the sea. It's so magical to have that much fun and that much highs in the daytime without a
Mhm.
nightclub and substances involved.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
that
yeah,
fun. It's like so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I love that.
And the best thing of all is that all of those things you just mentioned are
Mm,
free,
free.
okay?
Yeah.
Free. Because
Yeah.
Grant believes in something, and he just wanted to show up with his stupid pizza oven and make pizza for everybody, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like the best pizza you ever had. It's nothing
Yeah.
frozen crap from Bristol. It's a real
Yeah.
stuff, you
He
know?
made the dough himself. He made
Yeah.
the sauce himself. Everyone
Well,
brought the
this
toppings.
he made everything himself except the dough. The dough came from a local restaurant, which did a great job. But hey, someone had to
Okay, I
pay for
didn't know
it.
that, but still, it was made by a chef, right? Made by a hand, made
Yeah,
by a hand
yeah,
or
yeah,
what?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I did
So
wonder how he was going to make enough dough for all of
yeah,
that. So that now answers that question.
there you
I
go.
did think that
But
was epic when he said he was doing it.
yeah, I think I think maybe some of it was made and some of it, he
Yeah.
asked for help. But this is another story to learn, a story to tell, and something to learn. When you need help, you need to go and ask for it, and it's
Yeah.
okay, and it's absolutely fine. Because if
Mm,
you believe in something and you want to make something happen, you've got to realize you can't do it on your own. It's
mm,
it's it's gotta be about surrounding yourself with people who believe in the same thing, and that's what I've been saying to myself for the first 3 months of this coffee thing. I've got to
mm.
find the people who believe in the same thing. What do I believe in? It's about together is better and connecting. I literally have whoever doesn't know, you must go and look up after that. Simon Sinek, Start with Why. Okay,
Oh, he's one of
and
my favorites. He's
and I
brilliant.
don't, what they say that every successful person reads like some kind of stupid 10 books a week or something. I don't read at all because I
Mm.
fall asleep. It's so hard for me. I have so many books I want to read and I just don't. But there's this
And
one book I read.
audio books, it's changed my life.
Yeah, I need to get into this. Yeah, but I've
Because
been
you could
stuck
do
on
it
it.
while you're cycling, right? And while you're waiting, well, there's nothing going on. Audiobooks is like, because I read a
Yeah,
lot of books that way. For that
yeah,
reason, I
yeah,
can't sit and
yeah.
read. It's
Yeah. So definitely ways around it. But I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, which are kind of sometimes when you listen to other people's conversations, it can
yeah,
really change your life. And that's one of the things, you've got to find a routine around your life to see what works for you.
yeah,
And then again, that comes into this idea of what comes in out instead of out in. That when you think what inspires you and why the hell you're here, and then you find a routine, because it's hard. It's hard. You find out, and then okay, so how do I make it happen? Well, it's hard because if it wasn't hard, everybody would have done it, and then that's just not really exciting, isn't it? Everybody is doing the same thing. No, you want it to be hard because you want it to be yours, but you've got to
mm,
own it, and
mm,
owning it is showing up, but also working, finding this discipline
mm.
within. And I'm like the most lazy person you can find. If you if I didn't have this bike and I didn't have people waiting for me at the seafront, just making money is I couldn't care more. Like,
Well,
yeah, I
yeah,
need to pay the bills, but it's not inspiring. After a year of doing that, you're like, oh man, you start doing this, and I don't do it because I know why I do it, but also there's this whole thing of finding some kind of routine which works for you. I don't think I found it, but I'm close to some kind of
it's
structure
a
in my
work in
head.
progress. And I think that's the thing. It's
Yeah,
like anyone thinking that they're just going to sit down with a notepad, write what they believe in, figure out their routine, and life's going to be peachy. It's like, sorry, folks, spoiler alert, life ain't like that. And the more you do life, tweak, you come up with your dream life, right? It's just,
yeah,
and magic happens. But if people don't understand themselves and people don't understand what they're into, if they're always focusing on external or what other people are doing, like this is why, I have a push pull with social media, because I'm like, it's really cool because it connects people, but it's really devastating because everyone's watching what everyone else is doing instead of focusing inside, like you're saying, and doing, what's going to make them happy. And if people could just get that, if they
yeah.
follow what they are passionate about and give themselves permission to do it in spite of everybody, like you did, saying, no, that's a dumb idea, just the miracles that come out of it are just never ending.
Because you
Really.
are a children of a star. You are a miracle, right? I mean, this
Mm,
sounds woo-woo and crazy, but it's fun when you think about how universe started.
yeah.
All the atoms which are making your body are actually some stars in there, and you can believe in some kind of crazy law of attraction or manifesting to the universe and reimagining some kind of red stripe of energy coming into the sky, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But it is about first of all accepting yourself for who you are and how
Yeah.
you are, and be like, hey,
Yeah.
you know what, it's okay. Yeah, I'm overweight. Okay. you know, and what am I going to do about this? Am I going to replay that story in my head? You know, am I going to scan for danger all the time? That's I recommend, guys, if you struggle and you think that psychotherapy is not going to help you, just go and do it. Yeah, just have a couple of sessions and
Oh
see
man,
how it feels, you know.
Yeah, anyone who thinks they don't need to deal with it, and I probably say this a lot on very important. If you're listening to this and you think you don't have to deal with your childhood, second spoiler alert, game over. You've got to deal with that shit. It's just, and you know,
pushing down never works.
I had a pretty good childhood. Nothing particularly wrong. Middle class family.
Okay,
you know,
so what's wrong with you then? Come on, tell me what's wrong with you.
Well, exactly. What's wrong with me? Oh, nothing, Peter. I'm perfect. I'm wholly imperfect.
You are children of a star.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like, we don't do that. Or you know, we almost, I think in Britain anyway, we joke about how all Americans have got a therapist. It's like, yeah, they're 10 years ahead of us. They know that like, you got to deal with your shit so that you can get on. And then I think the next thing to say is, and then get a damn coach. I don't care who it is, but find someone that is inspiring, who you believe in and who believes in you, that you can work with.
Yeah.
You know?
So someone said, we had this conversation yesterday, and I felt, you know, I think that you talk a lot about landmarks, right? And you know, that's something you recommend people for doing. You know, I don't fully 100% understand what exactly it is, but I assume that it is, you know, starting that very difficult journey of, you know, inside out again, and trying to find a way to reconnect with yourself through listening to other people's stories first. And I find, and I was thinking about this, like, you know what, it's this Penards community is my landmark, because it's just so many people I listen to every single day. Sometimes you are so kind enough to give me free advice, which I appreciate. So, and I'm thinking, well, I sometimes those stories are extremely inspiring. Like the man I met on the cliff tops the other day, who told me that he lost, what was that, 9 stone in 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and he did it through, what is it, the stuff with sins. When you count everything is a sin. Was it like Weight Watchers or?
If it worked, great for him. Yeah.
Whatever, it worked for him, right? Cool. And then he said, and you know what happened? I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I'm probably gonna have my bowel removed, and I have to live with it. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, I'm fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then his approach was like, badass, you know, badass, because he was like, and I will live with it, and it's fine, and I'll find a way. And you know, when people say that, they mean it. When they don't mean it, and they're like, you know, the body language is not saying, you know, they're saying yes, but they're actually saying no. But this man was like fully into it, you know. And I thought about my father then, you know, because he's always kind of in, and this is a big story, you know, why he is this way. And it comes from, guess where? Childhood, you know, that you never really deal with some stuff, and then it kind of creeps up with you all the time. So when you have a big event happening in your life, whether it's good or bad, you can't really deal with it. Like some people have problems with taking compliments, huge thing, right? And some people, or most of us actually, don't do very well under pressure, stress. You know, and you go into your own shell and you retreat, you know. Not good for business, huh? This is all about money making, huh?
Yeah, because what is business? It's stressful, right? It's like,
always.
even if you've got your why and you're loving it, it's still stressful.
Yeah,
you know?
and you have to kind of, you know, be it all and be nothing in the same time. But you know, I thought about my father, and I started like collecting those stories, and I'm kind of drip feeding it to him, you know, at some point, because again, like, so this is traumatic, you know, cancer in the family, that's not easy, and I'm far away. So what can I do about it then, you know? And I'm thinking, I'm gonna drip feed those little stories, because he never experienced anything like this. He doesn't really have friends, you know. He kind of always lived this isolated life. COVID was great for him. Sorry, but
what was great for him?
COVID was great for him, you know, in a way. So I'm thinking, you know, what can I do about this? You look, I care about my mother. I want to make some kind of difference, and I want to be there, but I can't be there. So what can I do about it? Well, I'm gonna, you know, introduce him to this sea swimming community or dipping community at the seafront, and sometimes literally just copy paste into translator, translate it to Polish of what people say, and say, look, they call dipping and being a part of the community and showing up and doing something consistently every day change my life. And it's not just change my life, and this is how, and this is why. So people, this is another level of understanding where you are in your life, that you completely know why changes happened, and you know that you did it, because even though there is a lot of factors contributing into where you are in life, and knowing that you can't do it on your own, it has to be with other people in some kind of community, some kind of shape and form, connected to others. You still did the work. So, you know, chemotherapy is not going to just magically cure you from your cancer. It can come back. I think the mental health here is very important. And, you know, cancer is an isolated cell who doesn't know what to do, because it's disconnected from all the other tissues around it. Most cancers work this way. And what happens is that the only thing what the cell knows on the molecule level to do is to reproduce itself, and then tumor grows. Yeah. When we are disconnected from our friends and family, or we never really experience that, what happens is that we become that kind of sour, angry person, cancer in the society. We're disconnected, and the only thing what we can do is spit anger and hatred, because we are disconnected from everybody else. And then you are disconnected from yourself, and then you just become that angry person. Not good for business, not good for money making, definitely not.
Not good for health.
Not good for health. Yeah. So big questions here, you know, how not to be cancer in the society. And not because you want to make money, but because you want to live a good life. You know, what does this mean to you then? Do you want to have 17 private jets, or do you want to have just enough to pay your bills, but actually do something meaningful? You know, something which fulfills you, fulfillment. Yeah, that you were talking about fulfillment. Yeah, fulfilling life. So
yeah, and I think it's and again I think it's different for everyone, and I think that the way that I love to talk about this is around farming. You know, I'm a wannabe farmer. That's where I'm going next. I want to buy a livestock farm and produce sustainable, organic, and I'd say you know, beyond organic, to coin a phrase from Joel Salatin, where, you know, even the organic label, it's a bit like the fair trade label. It doesn't mean anything anymore. It can still be highly processed, and you can get an organic chicken, but it's still got brought up in a factory. It's not even a farm. These things aren't farms; they're factories, and it's tragic, and it's just absolute. You know, talk about crimes against, you know, other beings. And I know there are people who will listen to this going, well, you eat meat, you don't really care about animals and all of that. And I mean, geez, we could talk about that all day. But the thing about farming in the way it's done now, and the way I love it as an analogy for life. And there was a lot of time when I was working my money mastermind program and looking at branding, and was looking at, you know, being like the money farmer and all of that kind of, because it's so linked, is the way that farming is done now is done in a straight line. And it's like stuff in, stuff out, and a load of waste product. And it's why a lot of farms stink, because they have a waste, like a physical waste problem, because it doesn't go anywhere. And that is the problem in the way we do business now, the way we do money, the way we eat food, the way we do everything. The minute it becomes a straight line, and then there's a waste product that no one knows what to do with, we're fucked, because that's not how nature works. There's no awful smells in nature. When an animal dies in nature and there's a carcass, nature does what nature does, and the carcass gets, you know, put back into nature, and everything carries on. There's no rancid smell. There might be for, you know, a short period of time, but basically it's dealt with within nature. And when we farm that way, or run businesses that way, where there's no waste products and there's no abuse of any one resource, and everything's holistic and everything's organic and everything, and I don't mean organic in the organic label, I mean like it grows organically and everyone's working together. You know, it's kind of, it's like when I said to you about the growing mushroom business, when I was messaging you the other night, it's like you've got your waste coffee, and then you grow mushrooms, and then you sell the mushrooms, and you know, it's kind of in that vein. And it's the same whenever we do anything holistically, it just works for our bodies, our emotions, our spirituality, our physical everything. And what's happening, this is just my opinion, what's happening in the world is we're doing everything in a straight line. and we're going product in, product out, and oh look, we have this waste product we don't know what to do with. Well, in farming, the way you do that is you do it in a circle, and you have waste coming outside of the back of a cow that goes onto the grass that it's eating, that fertilizes the grass that it eats next. But what do we do now? We put cows in a barn and we cut the hay and we give them the hay in the barn, and then we take all their shit and we put it in a big pile and go, oh my God, how do we deal with this waste? I mean, it's just insanity. It's even economically, it's insanity, because then you've got to deal with waste rather than using the waste. So I don't know where I was going with that, but you were talking about, do you be a millionaire, do you have enough to pay your bills? I think so to answer it, I think you can go as big as you want. If you do it organically and in a circle where the waste product feeds the thing that you were doing in the first place, you can get as big as you want. But the minute you've got 6 private jets with no cycle and no kind of, it's almost like Jamie, and I'm going to have Jamie Oliver on this podcast one day. Of course I am. He's one of my favorite people in the chef world. Like what he's achieved and the books, all of that stuff. I would love to talk to him about this stuff, because he's gone there and he's built this big business that then actually he didn't stay with what he knows. He got sucked into this thing of, oh, we've got however many restaurants now, and now they all have to be exactly the same. So now we have to do it all in one kitchen down here and send it out, and then everyone's just going to reheat it in a microwave. And the minute you step away from any kind of cycle that works,
well, maybe this is why this is this conversation, Gordon Ramsay versus Jamie Oliver. Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, every single one is responding to what is happening locally and what people actually care about first, and he's just trying to make it better or the best, and it works. Jamie's Italian, and but all Jamie's restaurants are closed. Barbacoa 15, and all Jamie's Italian. I think some franchises are still open overseas, but I'm not sure now. So you have Jamie's Imperium, you have the merchandise sales, you had recipes as well in London, in Notting Hill. That was beautiful space, learning how to cook. How is that we have more celebrity chefs in this country than people actually cooking at home? Do you feel like that sometimes?
Yeah, I do. So I had a supper club business where I would literally teach people to cook with the ingredients we had. And this was just before I started really, doing money coaching, and I was still playing around in the chef world and how do I do cooking without working in a restaurant and all of that world. And it just, and again, if people are listening to this and you don't know how to cook, do yourself a favor, learn how to cook. It is so important. And I'm not saying everybody has to cook. Like, my husband never cooks. He's not interested in cooking. I don't care. I love cooking. But someone in your home needs to cook something some of the time, even if it's one meal a day. But us all living on microwave meals and ready meals and all of that world, it doesn't work. Because where does the waste go? Where does this go? How does it work? Why is everyone so sick? Why is everyone in the Western so-called, first world so fucking sick? Because we've gone like crazy past the other way. We've gone, oh, cooking. We don't need to cook. Yes, you do. And if you're rich enough to afford to have a private chef in your house, like I used to be a private chef for a family, do that. But for God's sake, don't live on microwave meals and takeaways, because it's killing us, literally killing us.
Yeah, well, there's no way. I mean, I think the best way to inspire people to cook is like, if you want to taste some amazing flavors of this life, you have to cook. Yeah. In food, this is something I met this South African girl. She's one of the swimmers actually as well. Of course she is. Everything what happens at dawn stays at dawn. I've got this mic. This is cool. The Dawn Stalkers. Do you know what I mean? How cool is that?
Yeah, cool. You do have an amazing voice too.
There's a story behind that too, but I really would love to do voiceover at some point. But and I'm talking to her, and she's telling me her story. By the way, she got a box of cookies, and the most they ever traveled was South Africa. And it was so cool because she delivered and the whole family loved it. It was this little taste of seafront. Do you know what I mean? This, and that's a very good tip for business. Well, you got to find out later on if you listen to me and you go and you look up Simon Sinek. He says, and I believe in it, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So she like, yeah, cookies are good. I mean, I like to eat them, and so it turns out you kind of like them too, so that's good. So that now there's two of us at least, and that means that, you know, maybe there's some truth in that, right? Because everybody tastes things in a different way, and I'm not going to say my cookies are the best day ever.
Sure.
I just said that, the best day ever. Sorry, Grant, I stole that. Stole that. So
For anyone who doesn't know, there's a bit of a language thing going on with Grant. And Grant, you've got to get over this. Like, when people start using your language, that means you've made it. That's what I say.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got haters and you've got imitators, hey, baby, it's working. And
perfect.
you know,
when I started the journey, we're going some off topic, but this is important. So when I started the journey, there was two businesses in Pinard who kind of wanted to go after me. Only a year later, I figured how deeply they wanted to stop me from doing what I'm doing, because they were afraid that they're going to lose business because I deliver. You know, I'm literally in front of their house under my license. I am all okay and legal to deliver to the house above the shop and leave. You know. And no one says that they couldn't do it, but they didn't do it, you know. And it's not immoral, you know. It's nothing wrong with that. It's not illegal. So you know, then I was upset about it. You know, I had some panic attack when this lady asked me for sugar as well, and I said I don't have any. And then she was like, "Well, what about those people here? Can't they just go and buy you some sugar?" You know, and it was this moment when it kind of, you know, all those things I believe in, people started questioning it. And it was just this one day again where I had this little, I can't take my, you know, like, it was so hard to breathe, you know. Luckily, you know, the guy who helped me out at the beginning with the garage I brewed in coffee and stored the bike, he's a psychotherapist. So I phoned him, was like, "Mate, you know, this is what's happening. I think it may be some kind of beginning of panic attack. What would you recommend?" Then he taught me the 5-3-1 technique, which is breathing in for 5, holding in for 3, exhaling on 1. Huge thing. Okay, I do it 2-3 times, you know, and I'm not even gonna go into a Wim Hof breathing because that is a different kind of conversation.
Well,
but
just breathe. I think, again, anyone, breathing is up there with cooking. It's like, learn how to use your breath to survive and function and thrive. It's free and it's magic.
Yeah. Literally, when you feel stressed, open the window. Unless you live in London, then don't do it.
Then leave London. Leave London.
Hampstead Heath is not far away, you know, and you can get there, you know. So, but yeah, go. Nature is definitely the answer to everything. Like, any question you have in your life, just go into nature, go for a walk, and have a deep breath. Yeah, like, that is the simplest thing you can do. And also another one, learn how to cook pasta very well. Yeah, that's another one. And it's like, you literally stand in front of the pot and you look at the water boiling, and you have a clock, and you just taste every minute. You taste that. So you find that you know, everybody likes it different way. You know, my kids love it when it's mushy. I like it when it's al dente. So you know, it's the same thing with coffee. You know, you've got to practice that thing. You know, find out what you like. If you like coffee, you know, ask yourself, what do you like in coffee? Same thing with the cookies. You know, if you like them, ask yourself, why do you like them? Have a bite and think, there's sweetness, definitely what hits you. It's a cookie, of course it's going to be sweet. Sure. But what kind of sweetness is it? Is it just sweet, or does it have a bit of acidity? There's a bit of cherry there. There's a bit of some kind of, because I use dark soft sugar. Yeah. It's not as processed as white, or it's not even as processed as just light brown sugar. So the organic acids in it will be preserved, and then you actually taste a little bit of acidity. Like, yes, it's sweet, but it's a bit more of something. And then you, like, this is just one ingredient. And when you think about cooking, it's exactly the same thing. Don't buy the mainstream pasta. Go to the organic store and try something for 20p more. Yeah, and then cook it and taste it and say, oh, okay. And don't do anything with it. Don't put like shitloads of sauce on it and, you know, whatever. Just try the plain pasta and focus and look at the water boiling and put a bit of salt there, maybe a bit of olive oil when you finish with it, right? And just try that and see how it tastes. The simple things done right. That's what I'm saying all the time. You know, yes, I have coffee, I have cookies, and I talk a lot. That's all I do. Nothing else. And it works. And I can guarantee you that if you're looking for, I have this problem. When I make a stew, I just put shitloads of stuff in it. And then you can't taste anything. Yeah. That's my problem, right? You know, and I'm trying to live what I preach, but disclaimer here, you know, it's not perfect, and I'm not perfect. And
Peter, you mean you're human too, and you like have things that, oh my goodness,
unfortunately, that's what it is. realizing that you're not perfect is important, because it puts you into place sometimes, and you're able to actually open your mind to like, oh, I screwed up. I need to say sorry, and I need to learn a lesson from that and try not to do it again. And you will do it again, and that's the thing. And then you have to come back and say, oh shit, I did it again. How can I make it better next time? And it's the same thing with business. The turnover is not there. Oh, okay. Well, so what went wrong? Okay, we need to learn from it. Don't give up, but learn from it. Life is the best teacher. I wanted to study psychology, so went to Ireland to get some money for uni, because it's expensive. And my father told me I'll be back in a year. I said, screw you. And I didn't want to get money from him, because he would then tell me till the end of the days that I paid for your uni, so you need to do this for me. That's how he thinks. Money, very toxic money situation, right? So I said, no, I'm not doing this. And I'm actually quite glad that I didn't study psychology, because life is the best psychologist. But only when you live a life, not just when you exist in this life bubble. That's different. That's being disconnected,
Well, it's the difference between watching life happen and
Yeah.
actually being on the court and playing, right?
Yeah. But coming back to what you said about harvesting money, and that money making is like growing veg. Very simple idea here. To grow veg, it's fucking hard. To make business work is fucking hard. I don't very often swear, but people need to know that it is fucking hard. Yeah.
And I love that you say that, because if we get that, then we can be like, oh, it's hard. It's meant to be hard. Oh, that's okay. Whereas a lot of people go into business, or they try something and it's hard, and they go, oh, life's not supposed to be hard. This is hard. And then they make it mean that they shouldn't be doing that thing, and then they give up. Whereas actually, the minute you go, life's hard, there's a book called The Road Less Traveled. The first sentence in it, life is hard. The minute you can get life is hard, you go, oh, okay, it's hard.
And the minute you realize it, things get easy. The minute you realize that things are easy, because
it's such a paradox.
Yeah, it's a huge one. Yeah, but it's a meaningful one. And things are easy because you stop telling yourself a story from your childhood, and that's very simple. Because then you start living your present moment, and you say, well, okay, well, what can I do about this? So my name is Peter. I brew coffee, I bake cookies, and I talk a lot. That's all I do. And life is hard, but once you realize it, it is easy. And that's pretty cool.
And like, if everyone just got that, because we make it, we can make it really complicated, don't we? We just go, oh, this happened, and that means that, and that means that, and that means that, and then this is wrong, and it's like, just stop.
So Ukraine situation, right? Okay, it's hard. Okay, it's difficult.
Oh my God! Just to add, the Ukraine situation, to anyone listening who hasn't seen this yet, and I'm sure, Peter, you're going to talk about this on another level. I did a video in my, so I have a Telegram group. So anyone listening to this who wants to join the Telegram group, I'll put a link in the bottom. But every week I do a thought for the week, and my thought for the week this week was about Ukraine. Anyone who doesn't understand what a gift Ukraine and Russia are right now, and what a gift the stories coming out of this horrific situation are, I want you to look and go, how is this a gift? And I want everyone to listen to what Peter's about to say. And I don't know what you're about to say, Peter, but I know it's going to be fucking gold because of what we've had so far.
I feel pressure.
And it's like, what it's done for me this week is I've gone, Jesus, I didn't, the whole thing of these people are literally dealing with hand-to-hand combat on their doorsteps, protecting their country. And I know that happens, right? I read historical novels. I read a lot about wars and, all the rest of it. And in my world, until this week, I was like, yes, but that happened in the past, or that's something that doesn't really happen much anymore. And yet here we are with that situation where it's like, if you're a man between 18 and 60 in the Ukraine right now, you don't get to leave. You got to stay and fight for your country. And this is Europe. This is not, and we're so global now that anywhere doesn't really feel that, even Australia doesn't feel that far away. But this is like much closer. Owen's going snowboarding in Bulgaria next week, and I'm looking on the map going, that's pretty close to where the war is going on, and you're talking about Poland, and that's not that far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I'm not saying that people need to go through hardships so the rest of us can feel good, but anyone this week, and again, this is not about, oh, there are people worse off than you, you've got nothing to complain about. This is not that either. This is just a moment for all of us to be grateful for everything that we have got, even when it's hard. It's like, holy shit, the resilience that's coming out of that country and the inspiration that's coming out from the leadership and the things that people are doing, saying, no, do you know what? This is not okay. And I've never fought before, but this is my country and I'm not standing for this. Is so inspiring.
Yeah.
And then we're running businesses going, have I done everything to create all the business I could? I can tell you now, no, we fucking haven't. We really haven't. Because if we haven't done everything to the point where we might die doing it, we haven't done everything. So anyway, that's my mini rant about this stuff inspiring me. And I want to hear it from your side. Your family are 4 hours away from Kiev. I don't know whether you know people in Ukraine that are there now, all of that world. The history around it as well is just huge.
But we have someone in the community, who's got someone in Kiev, and he decided to stay, and fight. And he didn't have to, and I think this is, it's a big topic to unpack, and I invite you to study a bit of history and looking where for the last 25 years or 20 years, this conflict between Russia and Ukraine was just getting bigger and bigger, and how it all started, learn a little bit about Vladimir Putin, and learn a little bit about Soviet Union. And, I'm from Poland. I'm born in 1991. Poland got independent in 1989. So, I'm a free child, we got into European Union in 2004 and NATO before that, and we've been living in this prosperity and abundance of trying to build a country and not dealing with the police hour and tanks and everything. I've never experienced anything like this. I went to the army school, so I've seen and I've spoken to army people who went to Iraq, and I've heard stories firsthand of how combat looks like and how it feels like. And we've always been kind of indoctrinated and programmed to be patriots and to be fighting for the country, God, and land. That's literally what is in the flag. And I get goosebumps when I talk about it because I believe in it. I don't believe in the way countries run right now, and I wouldn't come back there, but I believe in those values because they stand for something. And Ukrainian people really fight for their country because they believe in something. They believe in freedom, democracy, and Europe. And I think what you're trying to say is that we should appreciate and be grateful for Ukraine because they fight for Europe, not just for their country. And this is the thing people don't understand. It's a little bit like this plastic bottle thing, like you don't associate your plastic bottle with pollution in India, because you don't understand that the plastic bottle will follow, through the oceans and currents, and will wash off in the shore somewhere on the other side of the globe in 2 years or a year. But coming back to business, what do you care about, short-term or long-term gains? Are you building a business for, quick fix, steal as much money as possible and get out? And you may get lucky and you may do it once. Happy Christmas. But it's not a long-term thing. So again, build relationships and work on those relationships and do it one by one. It comes from looking and seeing. And there's a lot of people looking, but they can't see because they're not in the present moment, because they struggle more, because they can't see further than their back garden, and it comes from being, tired and stressed and all this stuff. And okay, so where do you put this Ukraine story here? And how do you, there's a lot of people saying that we shouldn't get involved in this war as a UK because it's not our war and we have nothing to do with it. And I was like, okay, plastic bottle syndrome. You don't understand that this will impact you. And again, this is about money. It will impact us. It's already impacting us because you got to understand that we are in the global community. But whether you wanted to leave EU or not, it doesn't matter, because the ties and the way we make business, where do you think the chips in your laptop come from? I'm waiting for the bike because there's a global shortage of chips, because of electric chips, because of COVID furloughs or whatever else, the problems in supply chain. And Shimano, who makes the electric assists for those bikes, They can't make their electric assist because they don't have the chips. So
Mm.
they're waiting to make that electric assist. So then Christiana Bike in Denmark can get those electric assists, build the frame for it, and then ship it to London so they can put it together so they can get collected. And like, do you know what I mean? You have to understand those things,
Mm.
because I've learned when I was a kid that I'm afraid of the things I don't understand.
Mm.
And that's why I looked into psychology, because I wanted to, and behaviorism in particular, because I wanted to understand why kids are so nasty to me, because I'm
Mm.
fat, because I'm on outsider, because I'm in the corner and nobody wants to play with me on the playground, and I'm always the last one to be picked for the football game, which I hate, by the way, so it's fine. But
Mm.
we are afraid of things we don't understand. And it's scary to be thinking about war in 21st century. And if you do know a bit of history, in 1939 in September, when Adolf Hitler invaded Poland after just walked into Czechoslovakia and Austria, and there is a lot going on when it comes to Polish people kind of felt, and you know what? UK didn't really do much at the time. They were playing politics. They didn't know how is it going to unfold. We just went through First World War. Like, it's not going to be that bad. It should be fine. It wasn't, and then we had to fight for England, and it was too late. And the history unfolds itself again, and it likes to repeat itself when you look at the history. I'm not that very well educated man, but I know enough to know that you have to understand those things on at least a basic level. And if you don't like politics, you don't like maths, you don't like philosophy, you don't like psychology, you don't like computers, you don't like social media, you don't want to go in a money mastermind course with Alex Louise, look, you gotta kind of brush off everything. Be interested, live a life, be interested in all those little things, to kind of just brush on the surface and just see how it feels, so you are kind of updated on everything. And I think that's really the key to success, that there isn't any key, but there is a lot of locks, and you just need to kind of find a way to open them with your will, as I speak, because there isn't a person holding a magic key in front of your face and you just need to grab it. You got to do the work. And
And I think it's important at that point to note that no one's got the answer. And anyone who's not really interested in politics and this, that, and the other, that's fine. But realize that everyone's just doing their best. And, there are huge problems in the world, and we cannot sit in any of it doesn't matter where you are in the world listening to this and who you are. You cannot just go, well, it doesn't affect me. Because like you said, we're in a global world now. If you think that something that happens somewhere else in the world's no big deal, you've got a problem, because you're not dealing with reality. Like you said, just the chips for your bike, COVID, not happening. It's huge. And I think the other thing for me, I think that gets me, is these are people. They're other human beings. These are mums and dads and daughters and sons and brothers and sisters and all the rest of that, and they're struggling. And it's a scary thought when any of us go, well, that's not my problem, or well, that's not in my backyard. It's like, well, yes, all of us on an individual level. I mean, generally, I don't listen to the news. I'm really clear about that. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, and I don't listen to the news. Guess what? Except now, because actually, there are some things in the news that I think, like, this is fucking important to know what's going on. And this is one of those few times where my no news rule is like, I actively seek out the news to find out what's happened. Like, if I've gone I've been coaching back to back all day and I've not listened to news, like, I want to know what's going on, because there's people at the end of this. There are literally, and yes, there's conflicts all over the world, and there's stuff going on all the time. We have to be careful, because there is a level to which we can't do stuff, and we can't just have that attitude all the time. We've got to go, and at some point there are things we can do, and it does matter, and we do need to get involved, and we do need to care. And we've all got to pick our thing, right, that we care about.
Yeah, well, to pick the fight you're kind of strong enough to take, and this conversation about Ukraine, I wanted to talk about it, not because I wanted to fragment the political structure of the whole thing, but this will affect you one way or another. If you don't care, and you that's kind of passive aggressive, isn't it? Let's say you just, you're not aware, and you don't really want to get involved in this, and you don't want to talk about it, don't want to know about it, because there's too much going on in your life. That's okay, fair. But it will affect us in some shape and form, because energy spikes and petrol spikes, and it's all connected, right? But let's say you do care. Let's say you watch the news, and and you are aware of what's happening, and then you get anxious, scared,
Mm.
depressed, and then you're asking yourself a question: oh my god, this is so horrible, what can I do about it? And you start researching yourself. Be careful of the scammers there as well. Yeah, you want to donate to some kind of great cause, you really screen the company you're donating to when it comes to
Mm.
stuff like that, because other people like to use this as an advantage. And in the UK we have so many scams, it's incredible. I get emails every day. So be careful of that. But do something, yeah, if you can.
Mm.
And that doing something, it could be even just realizing that what you do is important, the work you do ripples, and you just need to continue doing that work. Yeah.
Mm.
If you
Mm.
do a so-called bullshit job for minimum wage, it's important to do it. Someone needs to do it, and I appreciate your work. Thank you so much.
Mm.
But outside of that, you think, okay, is there something that doesn't fit right with me? And if it doesn't fit right with me, then what it is? And then go towards that thing, because it's a good kind of feeling, because it's real. And then I can guarantee you're going to find something about yourself, and you're going to quit your Sainsbury's job tomorrow. Yeah. Because
Mm.
you're going to take a big leap of faith, because you realize that, you know what, I actually don't care about this. And I don't want to do it again and again and again, doing the same thing, not being appreciated and underpaid and all this stuff. How can you pay the bills for £8 an hour? That's impossible. As a supervisor, 9.50. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for many. It works for few, but that's again not fair.
I was going to
But
say, and to all the people who are in that job and it works and it's fine, like that's really good. I think the key distinction is, if you're doing that and you're unhappy about it, or you feel like a victim, do something about it.
exactly,
Don't keep
yeah.
doing.
But in a,
That's the distinction, isn't it?
yeah, and in the context of war, it's like, what can you do about it? The world would be such a better place if people mm, did something for themselves in this positive way, that I want to go towards something I believe in, and as long as you don't hurt yourself, others on the planet, you're probably doing the right thing. Yeah. And in the long term, it will make you enough money to pay for everything, because you also learn how to manage your money, and you learn that maybe you don't need takeaway every evening, or you don't need to go out on Saturday night, because you start to believe in something different. So those, you going out every Saturday or drinking with mates on the Friday, it doesn't matter to you anymore.
Mm.
What matters is this idea that, and also you lose your friends. Like, when you start thinking this way, you kind of lose your friends, and that's okay, because you're gonna find different people.
They
And
change. I think they
yeah,
change, don't they? I think as
yeah,
we change, our friends
yeah.
change, because when your values and what you're up to change, that it naturally, you
Yeah,
progress.
but then you get those questions like, "Oh, you're not gonna drink with me? Come on, man! Like, we used to go out every Friday." And I
Mm.
think this is your priorities. Like, people still say, like, "What do you mean you don't have TV?" Like, I don't have a TV in the house. I sold it, and that came from a struggle as well. Like, oh, we're having a second baby, and I don't want to sleep in the same room. What can I do about it? We go to a small apartment. We're gonna
Mm.
move into the living room. Oh shit, there's a TV. Well, let's just sell TV, because sleep is more important than watching stupid shows. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but that's your priority. I was so anxious. I don't know why. This black screen there sitting in the corner, and I'm like, I'm selling it. I grew up with this thing. It's like getting rid of your mother. I was for like 3 or 4 days. I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't. I mean, come on. It's the TV. It's the
Mm.
we build a room around it. Like, when
Mm.
you think about your living room, everything is like, center point is TV. I want the center point of your living room to be a table. And that's why stol is stol, because in Polish, stół means table.
Okay.
Table is the most important piece of furniture in the household. You
Amen to
gather
that.
around it, you do homework, you eat, you have fun, whatever else. But we created this modern idea of how we want our living rooms to be, which is
Mm.
probably the place you spend most time in, and it's
Mm.
couch and a TV.
Mm.
Instead of that, we did
Well, it's
this.
the same
Yeah.
again, isn't it? Circle or a straight line.
Ah,
Which works
exactly.
better? It's the same
Exactly. Yeah.
again.
Exactly. Circle
Mm.
is much more important, because it repeats itself, and you can live a life like this. When it's just a straight line, at some point you hit the wall, and then what's next? You just, business, the same thing. Circular economy, it comes back to you, and this
Mm.
is why every single thing, when you look at Stol Coffee logo, you can have a look online.
Mm.
every It's a circle, but everything what makes that circle is a coffee journey. You have a hand picking the cherries, because coffee is a cherry. And it's in specialty coffee world, it is about hand-picked every single cherry. Only the ripest ones are picked, and then you process that. But you can't get a cherry without a flower before that in pollination. So you have a flower, the next one, and then you have a little water droplet, because most of the most of the coffee in the more developed countries are processed in some kind of shape and form with water. And then that goes down into a little speech bubble for the conversation and for the supply chain. And then that goes down into another hand, but with a cup, from one hand to another, and then it goes around because it repeats itself. So it's not just a table, and understanding that your own community is very important, but knowing where your products are from, not just coffee but everything else, will allow you to support something you can believe in, because you know where it's from. You know the farmer, or you know the bread maker, or the cheesemonger, or fishmonger, or whoever else. You know Mr. John from around the corner, and you don't need to question these products, because you've been buying from him for 25 years, and he's been doing this forever, and this is a family business, and the family business are dying down, but we need to bring them back, because that's how we can make a difference, I think, in the local communities. So we are afraid of the things we don't understand, and the war is a horrible thing. But once you start understanding that a little bit more, then you know that you can do something about it. And I think that something immediate action is not even taking action in protests or humanitarian work or donation. You can do all this, you can sign petitions and all this stuff.
Sure.
But first, it starts from you and your own ability to show up in your own life for yourself, so you can show up for others. And from that, everything else will ripple, And that's a conversation about acknowledging the beauty in the world first within yourself, so you can experience love in the most beautiful way ever. And with that, your life changes and things are different.
And it's not just your life that changes, everyone around's life around
Yeah.
you changes. And when you change all of that, then that ripples out and that ripples out. And then ultimately where we get to is world peace. So we think, oh, the war is such a big thing and it's over there and I don't know what to do. It's like, go, make friends with your neighbor. Go find out where your food comes from. Go find your local farmer and buy from them instead of, going to a supermarket and I still do it, just to be clear. I'm not like sat here with bunches of leeks in my garden, not eating, there's blueberries in my fridge right now from, God knows where. And I had a watermelon from Brazil the other day because Charlie said he wanted one. And at the same time, I'm holding this watermelon that was £2.50 going, this is everything that's wrong with the world. Right here in this watermelon, the fact that it's £2.50 for a fucking watermelon from Brazil is a problem. Like, that's not a good thing, But it's like actually getting connected to that and realizing that. And the more of us that do that, and the more of us that go, oh, that doesn't really work. I didn't really think when Charlie said I want a watermelon and I was on Sainsbury's online and I just clicked watermelon, I wasn't thinking. And then when it arrived and I read the label, I was like, that's from Brazil. I'm not going to do that again. That doesn't work. Most of our veg comes from Riverford in Devon, which then they've got farms in Spain and France, sure. But it's like just every moment that we can be connected to who we are, what we're buying, why we're doing it. I mean, look at what you guys are doing down at the seafront every morning. The stories on the Dawnstalkers website, on the WhatsApp, for those who don't know, there's a WhatsApp group for if you've swum more than twice. I say swum, dipped, got freaking cold for a few minutes and got back out is more accurate. I think probably cold water swimmers would take argument with, me calling it swimming. It's like the stories that come out on that WhatsApp. And for me personally as well, the fact that I can come on a Sunday morning and go in the water with people that, I have just so much time for, and then come and talk to you and have a coffee and a cookie and have, I would say, probably 2 hours, where I'm not thinking about or having to think about, I'm not coaching. So I'm not in coach mode. I'm not in mum mode. I'm not in wife mode. Like, I'm literally doing that for me. And I can come down that my mental health of like just how I am and the self, like that is a self-care routine for me. If I don't get there on a Sunday, the other morning I had to turn around with Diane, my bonus mum, otherwise known as my mother-in-law, but I call her my bonus mum. That's a new, I just love that. Anyone who's got step-parents and in-laws and stuff, please start calling them bonus mum or bonus dad or bonus children. It's such a nicer way of saying it. We were traveling down anyway. Rupert was really sick and we had to turn around. I was like, oh, not having this on the Sunday morning is like, it literally it resources me for the week. I'm like the best mum ever after, and I said this to Grant on the WhatsApp, on the podcast with him. I'm the best mum ever after I've seen you guys and spoken to you guys and been in the sea. And, you know, if Inda's doing yoga, we do like 10-minute yoga stretch beforehand. And it's like, that's how you get world peace. When everyone does the bit that they love,
Yeah.
and then everyone joins in. Does it stop the immediate war that we're dealing with now? No, of course it doesn't. Does it stop future wars? Yes, absolutely. If we can all be together and be okay with the fact that we've got like different opinions, you know, it's kind of become a joke now between Frankie and I. Like we couldn't be more different in our opinions about how the world is, but we still hug every Sunday morning and say hi, and I care about her and she cares about me. That's magic, man.
Well, that's the question: how to make the world a better place, and it has to start from us, right? You know, it's easy to point fingers, and it's easy to say, you know, oh, this is happening on the news, so that's happening in Westminster. Yeah. But you know, this conversation about the three things you never talk about: religion, politics, and money. Gotta change, right? Especially the M word, right? The money conversation is so uncomfortable, like
for most people. Do you know the number? It's so funny when people don't really know me very well, or they think they know me. They're like, "Oh, all you care about is money. All you talk about is money." And I'm just like, it's probably one of the reasons I'm doing a podcast, and then people can get that. You know, it's like there's like money's this much, and then there's everything else.
Yeah.
And you're right. People don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to deal with it, and they don't want to own their stuff around it.
But I think it's also you know, it couldn't be more clear, you know. It's a money mastermind, you know. It's financial freedom with Alex Louise. I mean, so you know, I think
I'm pretty upfront about what I care about.
You know, but I think it's also quite smart because, you know, everyone has this, you know, wonderful dream that I want to be financially free and I want to have a passive income, hands off. So I don't need to do anything, and I'm just gonna go to Italy, buy myself a house somewhere on the coast, and lie down on the beach forever. Yeah, and the idea of the sausage legs. Do you know what I mean? When you like lie down and you have like legs up, and you just take photo from here, and it's like sausage legs. Horrible, right? Is that the ideal holiday for you? Yeah, maybe for 2 weeks, and then you just, you know, burn to pieces. I think people have this misconception. I've learned that, you know, late. Well, I'm 30, so but yeah, I've learned that late. You know, the moment I decided to spend all my money I had on the business, it's a stupid thing to do, right? Because everybody tells you, yo, you gotta save, you know, stay where you are because, you know, at least you have that job, you have a furlough going on. Yeah, I was getting paid 80% of my normal wage, which is £900 as a supervisor in the coffee shop. Yeah. So expecting a second baby, and my expenses in the household are around 1,100. That's not including food and living, right? That's just bills. Okay, so if my partner can't go back to work because someone needs to look after the kids and I work in the morning, so she can't work in the morning as well. So unless we pay for childcare, which is another rent on top of everything, it's ridiculous. You can't afford childcare. I mean, come on. So, well, you're very lucky if you can. But some people work just to pay for childcare, right? And it's just like, what's going on? So it's not fair. It's like you start thinking this is backwards, you know, like how can I? And then I want to, and I think this is why, you know, pandemic is a challenging topic again, and I know that there's a lot of pain and suffering, and I'm not undermining that, but there is a beautiful contrast also to show how some things just don't work, and because we were at home, we had time to think. You know that you
and
know
people
this.
don't give themselves. I cannot. The number of people when you don't even have to think for that long, but if you just stop and turn off your fucking notifications and switch off the damn TV and turn off the radio and sit with a blank piece of paper and your loved one, if you're lucky enough to be in an intimate relationship, and sit down and just think and go, what do I want? Do you know the world is so noisy? It's so damn noisy. Do you know one of the things I love about this podcast is I get to spend 2 hours in a conversation like this thinking, what's important to me? What do I care about? Listening to your ideas, listening to things that you say. And we just don't do it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Storytelling is dead, as well, which is a shame. It's like you only have, what is it, 3 seconds. In 2007, it was 7 seconds to get someone. Now it's
yeah,
3 seconds, so your
yeah,
attention span is shorter. So
yeah.
I used to do social media management because I'm a photographer as well, and I wanted to get out of restaurant because I
Mm,
didn't really like working in that environment anymore,
mm,
and I felt like something is wrong. So I was looking for a different environment, and
mm,
and that's another leap of faith. And I did it only for 6 months because I had to schedule the post, and I had to lie, I had to say things which are just partially truth, or it was all about trying to find a way to sell a product instead of actually tell a real life story of someone who is inspired by something, and then
mm,
my photograph would resemble that story. It doesn't, those things, for the company I worked for, it didn't work this way, right? It was all about manipulation, and
mm,
I couldn't connect with it. But yeah, you start reading stuff on the studies are done, and everybody who watched Social Dilemma know what I'm talking about, and you can start defragmenting that as well. And it's like, the social programming thing, and how Brexit happened, and how Iraq happened, and how
mm,
some, Donald Trump and all this story, how he won his elections, and how social media was used for that, and fake news or whatever he's talking about or was talking about. All of those things are connected to our inability of dealing with our own emotions, and being
mm.
so, you know, being so prone into very fast decision making, but not actually, as you say, stopping and reevaluating the situation and learning a little bit more about it, so you can make better decisions in life. And it's not about politics, religion, or money here. It's about you and your immediate decisions every single day, and you make millions of them every single day. So
Mm,
you want to make sure that those decisions are as good for you as possible, and don't freak out in the same time. It's a lot of thinking. You don't have to
mm,
overthink it. But I think what we are equipped with is a gut feeling, and as you said, this noise, around there. It's so noisy that we lost the ability to feel,
mm,
and we live in the numbing experience
mm,
of fat, salt, sugar, and cheap media.
mm.
And oh, it's such a wonderful experience at the beginning, but then you get addicted, and then you get anxious, and then you get depressed, and then you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna give you Prozac to feel better. you know and then what's going to happen? If you're in America, you are screwed, because you have to pay for it if you don't have your insurance already. But hey, if you have an insurance, you got to pay for it too. And you know what's going to happen in UK? We're going to privatize the shit out of everything, because it's better for the economy. But we're not going to tell you that. We're going to tell you that it's better for everyone. No, it's better for few, not for everyone. And I
Mm.
think, you know world is never going to be idealistic socialism. I know that. But
Yeah,
you
because
know
that doesn't work either. It's just as flawed,
yeah.
right? It's like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's like democracy is not perfect, right? But it's the least broken
at
system.
least
If
worst.
Yeah,
At least worst.
so, but then also realizing that you don't vote with your tick in the box. You vote with your money. But again, so this is
Every
important.
time, every single time, and people don't
Yeah,
realize it. You vote every
yeah.
time you spend every single pound you have. If you
Mhm,
go to McDonald's, you vote for a certain kind of system and a food system and a farming system and all of that, and it impacts the whole world. They have more impact on beef farming and apple farming than any other restaurant or chef or anyone in the whole wide world. And that's what people, anyone listening to this going, what can little old me do? Notice where you spend your money. Notice what you buy. I've got small children now, and we're going to children's parties, and we're coming back with these party bags. And again, I think it's just that people, they're not connected.
mm,
Coming back with these party bags, I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want this cheap plastic that the kids don't want, that's going to end up in the bin. I don't want this cake that is white sugar, white flour, and just there's devoid of nutrients. And I think it's about, to come back to like business and government, and this, like, there's a lot of like, oh, none of it works. We've all got a choice. And it comes from when we have a kids party, where we hold that party. It comes from the food that we put on the table, that we nourish ourselves with. It comes with the entertainment that we watch. You can watch a lot of trash on Netflix, and you can watch a lot of really cool shit on there. And you can also watch really terrible entertainment, and you can watch some really cool stuff. And I think the lesson and the journey for human beings on an individual level, and I think this is an individual level, is As long as human beings continue to give away their power and ask someone else to take care of them, which is what's happening, right? Which is why we have the NHS, it's why we have the benefit system, it's why we have all of these. The more power that we give someone else, the more power that we get, and this is so on a social level, the more power we give the government and go, you decide what to do, you tell me how to live, you tell me what medication I should have, you tell me how it goes. They're not doing it. There's no evil conspiracy to like, they're just trying to fucking do what we've asked, right? The minute that everyone listening to this and everyone on an individual level on the planet gets that you get to say, I get to choose every day where I spend my money and my food. I get to choose every day what I watch and don't watch on TV and on radio. I get to choose every day what things I buy to put in my kids' party bags. And when we all get that, you know, the way I used to explain it when I was a chef, and I used to do cookery demonstrations and talk to people about food, I'd say, do you know what? 90% of the food or the products, it's not, I can't even call it food. 90% of the products that are available in supermarkets, take out the clothes and stuff, just the food-like products that are there. They're not fit for human consumption. They are not meant to go in your body. If you are not in the meat and vegetable and fish aisle, and even then we could have a whole conversation about all meat is not created equal, all fish is not created equal, all vegetables are not created equal. If you're not buying something that is an ingredient, if you're buying something that has a list of words that I can't even pronounce and I'm a chef, we're not buying food. And the thing that we all have to remember is that we've got a choice. Yes, the government can say, this is the way it is, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Every time we spend £1, we are buying into that and giving up our power, or we're not. And I think the journey for all of this is like anything in life is a pendulum. And if we all give up our power again and again and again and again, we will get what we get until we finally go, fuck, this is shit. I don't want to eat this. I don't want to live this way. I don't want to pay this much rent. I don't want to do this. I'm going to find another way. And then we take our personal responsibility back, and we own our choices and we own our lives. That's when the world changes, because we'll stop doing it. We'll stop buying into what we're told to do. We'll stop, everyone does a party bag this way for a kid's party, so we have to do it. Everyone does social media this way, so we have to do it. Everyone goes to this takeaway, so we have to do it. And again, I don't want to do out takeaways. I don't think they're a bad thing. I think they're an amazing thing that provide food. And we've all got a choice of which takeaway. Is it a local guy who's cooking his guts out, like in Penarth, the Indian takeaway, and I can't remember the name of it now.
Mint mustard?
Mint and mustard.
Mint and mustard,
yeah. And the amazing food they're doing. And then they changed, there was the other one on the corner, Sue's one, the little one on the corner on the one-way street. Anyway, the point is that what I'm thinking about is this, like, there's a guy in there cooking his guts out with ingredients that he cares about, and he sourced them from somewhere that matters, versus, a big chain restaurant where it got made in a factory and no one really cares what animal was, how they were raised and what happened to them before they were.
By Alex, this is more expensive. I can't afford that.
I love that.
Explain that to me then, huh?
So I will. So here's the thing. This is the same thing. We were talking earlier about fulfillment versus making money. If we only measure food in cost, in the intrinsic financial cost that it costs when we buy it, we're fucked. Anyone who says to me, but Alex, is more expensive, I go, is it really? When you look at the whole cost of the cheap food, what's more expensive? Because right now, in the West especially, we're sicker than we've ever been. The NHS is basically bankrupt. I mean, we prop it up, but it's fucked. I mean, it doesn't, it's in negative all the time. It's growing and growing in debt. So we're physically sick. Our NHS system doesn't work. Our transport system doesn't work. Nothing we actually have works. And we go, but good food is more expensive. And here's what I say to that. So my grandma is 98. So I come from a farming family. She was a farm vet, but her parents were farmers. And they used to have chicken once a month. Yes, ladies and gents listening to this who can't imagine having chicken once a month. It's like twice a day. And it was valued and it was expensive. Okay. When I buy a chicken from Riverford, or I buy, from Sainsbury's, I buy the like free range, woodland, this, blah, 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 blah. And it cost me £13 for a chicken. Yes, I said £13 for a chicken. Do you know what I do with that chicken? Do you know how many meals I get with that chicken? And hey, let's not joke here. I can afford it, right? I can afford it. And you know what? When I buy that chicken, I make stock. And yes, I do this like now, right? I roast it. We use it as a one meal. Then we use all the leftover meat. Then I make stock from the bones. And then I make a soup from that stock. I get so many meals from that chicken compared to a person who spends £3 or £4 on a chicken, maybe uses it for once, probably chucks the bones away. And frankly, I wouldn't even make stock out of the bones from those chickens. I really wouldn't recommend it. And then also, this is the cost that no one counts when they're going about cheap food. And then they get sick because of the food they're eating. And then they have to count the cost of being sick and not being able to work. And like you were just saying, and if you're in America, you've now got to pay for your Prozac, but you haven't got a job because you're sick, and now you're fucked. And then you're into, illegal drugs. And there's a huge problem with illegal drugs and all the rest. And it all starts with what we call cheap versus expensive food. And in the long run, the cheap food costs us our health, our well-being, our environmental systems, and our farming. It costs us our rivers. How connected am I now? Because I go in the sea every week, and then I read about, sewage pouring into the sea and all of this, and it all comes from our quote-unquote cheap food that's okay. And that's the true cost of cheap food. And now I'm going to predict the next question is, yeah, that's fine for you to say, Alex, you can spend £13 on a chicken, right? And I really want to go here because it's important, okay? And I say and this is why I'm so big on people learning to cook. It seems like it's cheaper. And I think one day I'm going to do, even if it's just a YouTube program, I want to fucking work with people who go, this is all I've got to spend on food. And I want to go shopping with them and I want to show them how to do it. Because I know that I can go to the butcher's in Abergavenny and I can buy a whole brisket of beef on the bone, which weighs 6 to 7 kilos. For people who aren't connected to food and weight, 6 to 7 kilos is the size of a very large, baby. Charlie is 15 kilos and he's 3.5. Just to give people an idea of what that is. That's like 6 or 7 big bags.
Don't cook your babies, by the way. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't cook the babies. They're priceless. You can't cook them. I can go and get that piece of beef at 6 to 7 kilos. And for £25 in money, I can get 6 to 7 kilos of beef. I can slow roast that for 24 hours in the oven at 100 degrees. It will be the best. Peter, I'll do it for you one day. It's the best fucking beef you're going to ever get. Do you eat meat? You don't eat meat, do you? This is a bad conversation.
No, it's okay. I'm open-minded to it.
Get the point of it. So, we can do it with vegetables.
I'm from Poland. My mother was a butcher. I grew up on pork chops. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right? And I can take that beef and I can turn that into more meals than you can imagine. Do you know the other thing that happens when you do that with a piece of meat like that? It's covered in fat. And when you cook it at 100 degrees, the fat renders down. And from one brisket of beef, and I do this, from one brisket of beef, I can get 4 to 5 jam jars full of fat. Okay? Which again, on a nutritious level, and there's going to be plenty of people who probably go, fat's bad. And I can't, it's like, we know fat's not bad now. And if you still think it's bad, please read something, right?
It's better than butter, right? Yeah.
4 or 5 jam jars of fat that you can then cook with. All of the meat. The bones are then roasted down, which can be turned into stock, which again, highly nutritious. And can make so many meals, okay? The same, lentils, pulses, grains. If we bother to buy them in bulk and soak them and cook them properly, they are really cheap. And I'm so tired of the conversation of ready meals are cheaper than buying real food. Because if you buy rice, okay, here's the if you buy rice, not you personally, like anyone listening, if you buy rice in a pouch already cooked, and it costs you £1 or £2 a portion, yes, that is going to be expensive. If you
tastes horrible though, huh?
And it tastes like shit. And by the way, it's really bad for you. Just in case anyone's wondering, it's dead food. It's devoid of nutrients. It hasn't been soaked. It's been cooked in ways that just don't work. If you go down to a wholesaler and buy 10 kilos or even 25 kilos of rice, that shit will last you for a long bloody time. So this argument about how people can't afford to buy real food. I just can't. I can't. It's really tough because if anyone, and I'm up for this challenge. Anyone listening to this is like, yeah, I'll do this challenge with Alex. Let me come in your kitchen and let me come in your cupboards and let me work with you for a couple of weeks and see what you buy, what you eat, what your budget is, and let's see if we can do it better and cheaper.
Yeah.
And
I think it's also very important to say that this is part of the course, right? You do, because people who would come to, I know a little bit about your course. I didn't do it again, but I
sure,
think
sure.
I think I
There's
speak
rumors
to
about my
people.
course.
I speak to people, yeah. And this is something like looking at your finances, and saying, hey, I can't possibly save from my first home. It's impossible. Well, let's have a look where you are and see where you can actually ship it off.
Yeah.
Don't go out Friday. Don't go out Saturday. Don't have that takeaway every night or every 2 nights or every month. Maybe just
Sure.
scrap it all together. And then coming back to the conversation about food, I think knowledge is power. I
Yeah.
think it all links into this one thing: knowledge is power. And if you
Mm.
can't afford something, it comes from somewhere. I mean, there are some situations out there where they're tragic. They're tragic, and we have to acknowledge that as well. I saw Jason the other day on the cliff tops, and he's homeless, and he was sleeping on this bus shelter I go to every day almost. And he was sleeping there in the storm. And I spoken to him. I gave him a copy. Wonderful story. A homeless guy has nothing. He had some clothes and some scooter with him or something, and that's all he's got. And I gave him coffee and a cookie, and then he turned around saying, "You know what? And I've got something for you too." And he picked up the last your celebrations Mars bar, and he gave it to me. And I was like, "Well, isn't that wonderful that people who got the least give the most?" And I think that there's a lesson to learn here, that there's always something you can do when you are on the very, very bottom, when you have literally nothing. And I've been there. I had 10 euros for food per week. Yeah, that was my budget for the month, because I had 40 euros in my bank account, and I lost my job, and I had to bask on the street of Ireland to get a bit of something to go by. And again, when you actually show up and you start living a life and you try your best, things change. And that's how I met Steven. Steven introduced me to Shami. Shami told me that, hey, I bought a restaurant, and do you want to work? Yes, it was slavery. Yes, I worked for 200 euros per week, but I could pay my bills at least. And from that, things happened. But you showed up and you did something, and some opportunity came, and you took the opportunity, and something happened. And I think people who are homeless, and people who are struggling on that deeper level, we as society failed to acknowledge that they're struggling, and we didn't catch it up on time. And I think it's easy to point at homeless person saying, oh, you're not doing the work, or you were wasting time and money on whatever. But again, pointing fingers, not good for him, not good for you or for her. And coming back to the food conversation, oh, I don't have 13 pounds for the chicken. You're saying you can do it better, you can do it different, you can plan, and you can think long term instead of short term. Business, long term, always better than short term. Every time I spend 350 pounds on 22 kilograms of specialty grade coffee, it hurts my heart, because I just worked my ass off over the weekend, and all of this potential profit is just going away like that. Yeah. But I'm investing for a whole month. It's a long-term thing. But every single time I see this money coming out, I was like, maybe I'm too young in business to kind of, be okay with the numbers. But the short term never works.
It
You can
doesn't.
have,
It never works. Anyone who thinks, and it takes something. When we're in struggle and we're dealing with whatever it is, it doesn't. Geez, your dad's got cancer. You've got 2 small children. All of that. It doesn't matter. Whoever's listening to this, everyone's got their struggle and their stuff going on. And the other thing that's important to say at this point is, if you're listening to this thinking that money's going to make a difference and you'll have more money and then all your problems will go away, I'm just going to burst that bubble right now. You'll just have bigger problems, and you'll have more people that you're accountable to, and more people that you're responsible to, and you'll have a bigger amount of money that you have to find every month to make stuff work, because that's the very nature of how humans are. We're expansive. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, whatever the struggle is, there's always something that we can do. And you're right. Do you know what? to a certain level, society in some ways has failed some people, but it's never too late for anyone. It's never too late for us to notice someone who's struggling. But also there's a thing I say to my people who come into Joint Venture Mastermind, and Joint Venture Mastermind is my program where people joint venture and they go into property together. And I do pretty much everything I can to talk people out of doing that, so that if they come into it, I know they're actually going to do it. And the thing I say to them is, hey, do you know what? Doing Joint Venture Mastermind together, it's like climbing Everest as a team. And you don't finish until you're all at the fucking top. And if someone has altitude sickness, you don't go anywhere till you fix that altitude sickness for that person. And here's the kicker, and this is really important. The person that feels like they have altitude sickness has a responsibility to say, I think I'm getting sick. I need some help. And I'm really hot on this because this is the dance between society, being together, taking care of each other, and personal responsibility. And I think climbing a mountain like Everest is such a good example. And have you seen the 14 Peaks Netflix series about the guy that did 14 peaks in 7 months?
No, but I think I heard about it.
If you want to watch something like just such a brilliant story of like, okay, so he did that. So whenever I'm feeling tired now, I think of Nim and I'm just like, fuck me. The guy got pissed and with all his mates and was hungover and then climbed one of the biggest mountains in the world. And they just did it. And they rescued a few people from dying along the way. I mean, it's just a ridiculous story. So whenever I wake up feeling a bit tired or like I don't feel like doing something, I just channel him now and just go, okay, I can give more. I'm more resilient than I think I am. But the thing that I want to come back to is we all have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility as society to notice when someone's struggling, and the person that's struggling has a responsibility to say, hey, I'm struggling. I'm not coping right. Or, hey, I need to, and we started this podcast talking about this. We've got to get good at asking for help. And we've got to get good at being seen in the struggle. And one of my standards in my book is show up and be seen. Anyway, whatever's going on or whatever you're feeling, show up and be seen. Because the minute you show up, and you said this, you went outside and you went for a walk and you spoke to people and then things change. The minute we're in our head on our own, suffering and struggling and not asking for help and not saying to people, there's something wrong here, my life's not working. And likewise, once we get into a situation that's not working, it's like accepting help. Because the problem for me, and this is such a big part of helping, and this is why socialism doesn't work, is the same reason that prescribed therapy doesn't work. If I say to you, hey, Peter, you need to go see a therapist about your dad, but you don't really want to go and see a therapist about your dad, but you humor me, you're not going to get anything from that therapy. You're just going to show up and go, yeah, blah, blah, blah. No, the fucking therapy didn't work. Of course it didn't. You didn't want it, right? And it's the same. We as a society we can't force our help on people we think need our help. We have to help people who want our help. And we have to let people who might need our help know that it's there if they want it. But we cannot force people to have help that they don't want. And we can't either go, well, we know better than themselves for themselves. We know they need help. You know, it's like the homeless person or the person that's struggling with whatever. It's like we can absolutely keep inviting, even on a daily basis, going, hey, dude, I know this, like, would you like to come? And we have to be okay with them saying, fuck off, leave me alone. I'm fine. Until they get to a point where they realize they're not fine. Because actually they might be fine, right? That's the other thing. And I think the minute that we get that, and we can be okay with people not being okay and be a constant invitation for anything's possible, then everyone's free to choose. But while we have an opinion that society is wrong and we're failing people, and even privatizing the NHS, do you know what? It's a really interesting conversation for me, because do you know what I would love to do? I'd love to take, the guys that run McDonald's, the guys that run Amazon, the guys that run, Virgin. I'd love to take them all and put them, into government, into the NHS, and actually deal with it like it's a business. Because the minute we don't, look what we've got. We've got wastage. We've got people don't care. We've got people being treated like shit. We've got services that are not available, yada, yada, yada. And once we get that we all have to take responsibility on a whole level and an individual level, then something's going to change. But while we think that there's things that are wrong and things that shouldn't be the way they are, and things are like bad and wrong, like privatizing the NHS, for example, is bad and wrong. It's like, well, it's not working now either. Like, really, it's not.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's free for all, and that's the bigger topic to unpack, right? Which I don't think I'm qualified to comment on that. But those kind of universal truths, that we should be able to express ourselves, so freedom of speech, that we should have access to affordable, healthy, quality food, and meaningful jobs and free healthcare. I think every country should strive to be doing this. And
I think the distinction for me, and I agree with you, but what I don't agree with is the should and the right to have it. I think we need to strive for it because it works and it's powerful. And what I don't agree with, and that's different with the UK, with most of the rest of Europe. So my auntie lives in France, and if she needs a doctor, she has to pay for the invoice and then she gets it back. So she's connected to what it costs. And the problem with anything that's free is that no one values it. And that doesn't matter whether it's a free cookie and a coffee with no value added, like someone spent £5 for you or whatever it is, right? When there's no value attached to something, people don't value it. So the way that, frankly, the most of the population, and probably me at times, treat the NHS, it's no wonder the NHS is in trouble, because we pick up prescriptions we don't use or need. We ask for paracetamol on prescription when it costs 24p in the supermarket, but it costs £7 on the prescription, but we don't know it. I don't know how much it costs for me to go and see a doctor because it's just free. But there's an intrinsic cost to all of that. And whilst all of us as an individual don't know what it costs, then there's no way of valuing it. So then we treat it like it's free. We take it for granted. And what I do know that's amazing, so my brother, I don't know whether you know this or not, my brother was killed in a cycling accident when he was 28, I was 30. And the amount of care that he had in the 48 hours from when he hit the car is a better accurate description of what happened. The car was basically stationary. It was just one of these freak accidents. She was turning into a rugby club to collect her daughter. He was riding like a maniac on his bike down the road, and she happened to turn as he decided to, fly across this junction. So really, he hit her, not the other way around, right? And he didn't come off so well, and he didn't have lights, and he didn't have a helmet, and it was dusk, and the care that he had. Now, luckily, somewhere behind him was a paramedic who gave him first aid immediately on the scene, which meant that he stayed alive long enough to be picked up by an ambulance and taken to intensive care in Bath, which meant he was brain dead, right? So he wasn't. He was kind of alive, but not. It depends what you consider alive. Okay, he was alive long enough for my dad to fly from Tanzania. And the reason I'm sharing the detail of this is the cost of that. And I don't know what the bill was. And this is important, right? So he's in intensive care, which costs unbelievable amounts of money, from a nurse and care point of view, the ambulance that picked him up, the intensive care he was in. Some police officers picked my dad up from the plane, off the plane in Heathrow Airport. Do you know, it's the one thing that still gets me about all this? I don't cry about my brother dying. The vision of my dad coming into the hospital with 2 policemen behind him carrying his luggage for him, bringing him from the airport, it gets me every time, because the cost just of that. Okay, my mum and me were picked up from my grandmother's house in Staffordshire and blue lighted all the way down to the hospital in Bath. That's a 3-hour car journey with 2 different police forces involved, the Staffordshire police and then the Bristol police. And they took us into the hospital because everyone knew it was, this guy's not going to live. Like, he's going to die. We need his family there. That's what the NHS is to me. This is who the NHS is to me. He then, he didn't make it. We knew he wouldn't. So we all got to say goodbye. It's one of the most moving things that has ever happened to me in my life. I could do a podcast just about what happened and the good that came out of it, and his friends and the contacts I have now, and the belief in humanity that I have just around what happened there. It didn't end there. because he was young and he was very fit and healthy, there was an organ donation team, and he was not actually that damaged. The biggest problem was he was brain dead. The rest of his body was fairly intact. He had some broken ribs and some issues, but he was basically okay other than that. So there was an organ donation team of something like 9 specialist doctors who then, when he passed away, so the machines were turned off and he died, passed away fairly quickly at that point when they turned the respirators off. And there was then an organ donation team that not only harvested his organs, they were then stored, taken to various, so some were frozen. So we got letters later about babies who had his heart valves, whose lives were saved because of it. I mean, it just goes, and again, that one gets me too. It goes on and on and on. Can you imagine the cost of everything I've just described? Just to link it back to the NHS, because there's so many things we could talk about in this scenario, but right now we're talking about the NHS. Can you imagine the cost of that? My brother did not pay anywhere near that amount in taxes in his whole working life to what it cost in that 48 hours. And that's not to mention the police liaison officer who was allocated to our family, the police liaison officer that was allocated to the lady who was in the car's family, the inquest that happened because of his death, because it was classed as a violent, untimely death. So there had to be an inquest about was somebody to blame. And to be clear, we've never blamed this lady as a family, and we never will. And at some point, I will speak to her and find her again, because it's been over 10 years now. And I'm like, I care about how she did and how she is, because I think she was probably more impacted, ironically, by that crash than I was, because I had, all the support, all the love, all the things. She was left on her own, just like, I've killed someone. That's probably what she was left with. And we don't even believe that that's true. Anyway, we digress, right? So all of that care, who paid for that? We did as taxpayers. Is that sustainable for one person's life who never even paid that much in his taxes for his whole life? But the other thing is, I don't even know, and this conversation is making me want to find out. I don't even know what it cost, because we were never told, hey, we just need you to know that the bill for that was, I don't know, pick a figure. What do you think? 10,000, 20,000, 30,000?
Yeah, probably much more than that when it comes to such an
50,000?
surgery of so many doctors. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the surgeries to put all the parts into more people. And as long as we're disconnected from what it costs to have a free NHS, the NHS is never going to work. Because do you know what? If I knew what it cost, I might have even done a fundraiser to contribute some of that back into the NHS to keep it going.
Well, and then the conversation is here. First of all, thanks for sharing. I appreciate you saying that it's a power of vulnerability, which is important to actually say here. That if you yes, do ask for help when you need it, but also share the story of people who want to listen, and when someone wants to listen, right? And I don't think the solution to this is to privatize NHS or
Sure, I'm not
or like
arguing
start
that
making
either, right?
It's just, but it's a valid point. It's like with food waste. If your cauliflower cost you 20p, fine, it just went off in the fridge. You go
Yeah,
and
and you
get your
chuck it
Morrison
out.
shop. Yeah, but
Same thing.
if you bought organic, or whatever organic means these days. But look,
Yeah.
I get veg boxes delivered every week, from Abergavenny. Pavel, he's a great guy, and it really hurts when we didn't eat it because nobody likes Brussels sprouts, but they're in season, and it's like we're trying to cook with it, but this week we kind of screwed up and we just didn't get to it, and you throw it away. You're like, I just paid for it. It's not even about money. It's about, I know who made this. I've been on the farm. I took photos for the guys. I appreciate their work. I know them for years, and it hurts my heart when you throw away a Brussels sprout, So it would hurt your heart knowing that, your phone call cost NHS £350 because you just wanted to ask a question, but you could Google it. Yeah. I don't know what cost it is, but even if it's 20 quid, you wasted 20 quid of taxpayers' money. I agree with that point. That's for sure. And I think it comes to this conversation of the power of knowledge, and we can touch on educational system, on schools, or whether they're good or bad, on emotional intelligence as well, how good or bad we are with ourselves. And that's why I talk so much about mental health, because if you're good with yourself and, you kind of sort of balance, most of the times, you make better decisions, and that also means that you watch better content and you digest different data because you're able to filter through the bullshit and fake news and all this stuff.
Mm.
um, and propaganda is real. You see what's happening in the West, East Europe. um, so what are we gonna uh, finish on to inspire someone to
So
buy the first home?
well, so I tell you where I want to know where Peter's going next, and I want to know where Stol Coffee's going next to end, and I'm sure we're going to do this again, and I would love
Yeah.
to do this again in 6 months or a year to,
Yeah,
say like, where's Peter now? Like,
mhm.
when's the new bike coming, pending chips? How do you? So here's my question for you to end on, which is making I did this to Kevin the other day. He was like, "You can't ask me that at the end of the podcast. That's the whole podcast." How does Peter expand and make more money and have more financial abundance without becoming what you described happened at Jamie Oliver's restaurants, where it's just everyone's just a machine and people get paid shit money and all of that?
Yeah.
Have you answered that question yet? Because I'm intrigued to know
Yeah.
what your answer to that
Well,
is.
it's a topic in itself, of course, and it all depends on how much detail are we gonna get into. But I think, my realization from the very beginning is that you need to be able to create multiple sources of income in business. You cannot have just three products and think it's gonna work forever. Because I work every day now. Well, Monday I don't go on the bike, but I still bake cookies in the evening because I bake every evening. I can't go on like this forever. So, but the answer for me is not to have 5 bikes. Yeah.
Mm,
I don't think this is the way forward. The reason why the bike works is because it's very cheap to run, and I designed it to be cheap to run because I want it to be a noble business. So if someone needs help, I want to give someone the cup of coffee, and this is where the community pot story came from, because I wanted to do the unconditional kindness and inspire people to think in a more positive way that something good can happen to you today, right now, right here, because you were vulnerable and you told me about your struggles. And you know what? Community paid for your coffee and a cookie. Hey,
mm,
have a great day. Huh? And
mm,
that's powerful. That's very simple. So growing that idea is definitely a future. And then the question is, in what shape and form? Because you cannot go wrong when you talk about love and compassion.
mm,
You can't, because it's too pure. That's
mm,
why I got so little hatred. Someone told me that, who is a very good businessman in Penarth, owning 3 or 4 businesses and building more, and he was like, "Man, you know what? I'm baffled. I've no idea how you did that. That you got only so little hate from local business. Because
mm,
local community, and especially when it comes to business community, can be a blessing or it can be a curse, because it
mm,
depends of where do you fit. And if you don't fit into any of the
mm,
ideas, well, then
mm,
where do you stand? They don't know whether you belong to the tribe and they should support you or they should exclude you. It's business. Local business is a tribe. And I'm kind of outside of that, doing my own thing. I don't look at what other businesses are doing or not doing. I just try not to stir a pot. So if someone told me off that I can't be there because it's too close to their shop, I'm like,
mm,
fine, I'll just stop coming there and I find a different way.
mm,
And that's fine. It comes from respect and kind of understanding the
mm,
situation. It's nothing personal. Someone is scared, and that's
mm,
okay. So the way it's going is that it has to stay noble, and it has to the why needs to be there. That I
mm,
want to make the world a better place through meaningful conversations, because when we show up in the most beautiful way we can every single day for yourself first, so you can show up for others, then we make a difference. And that is a little sentence which kind of follows me around.
mm,
And I think with that you can do a lot. And I think scaling those ideas uh, uh, will bring more revenue as well, which
mm,
then will allow me to hire people to work with me on different levels. It's not about having a coffee shop. Like, how many coffee shops do we have in town? Like
a lot.
5. And it's like, what's the point of? I just Boston Tea Party is coming to Penat, which I'm very, very excited. Someone told me about it the other day, and they are a great Bristol company. And I think Waterloo is gonna see a little bit of competition over here. And this is an interesting conversation about competition. Healthy competition is apparently good. Okay, cool. But what if you keep doing the same thing and you're not innovating and changing because you don't know why you exist? You
Mm,
just have a better quality product than someone else. Okay, and then Boston Tea Party comes in and is like, Jesus, their teas are great, coffee is great. I've seen so much good stuff they do in Bristol. How do you compete with that if it's on the same Bristol level? We're a little bit like 10 years behind Bristol when it comes to coffee, specialty coffee
Sure.
community,
Yeah.
and 20 years behind what London is doing. So how do we, well, you need to know why you're doing what you're doing, because then people believe in why you do things, not what you do. And they buy the why, not the what. So so they buy into this. And I think it's more powerful to be believing in the why and doing the why, because then the money follows you, not other way around. So I need to scale the meaning behind the business and find a way to monetize it. And I think this is where Patreon comes in as well, because if good stories travel well, and it's some good stories to tell here, well then you go on Patreon/Stol Coffee and you have a look what I do and why I do it, and you have a look at the podcast, and hey, this microphone is because of Patreon supporters, so I can talk more, and that message maybe can reach people in a better quality format. It's because of you subscribing to something I believe in, or I don't know, tapping into it. Maybe subscribing is a bad word to use, but that's how this whole thing will evolve. And I think if I want to work less and find more balance when it comes to spending more time with my family, which is very important, well, the why and scaling the why is much more important than the what, because there's only so many places I can go to with the bike in any given moment, and so many coffees I can brew from home, and so many cookies I can bake. I can scale that, and I can start doing wholesaling. I can do more boxes and all this stuff, until you start going into, oh, I need to hire someone or outsource it. Okay, the quality is not going to be the same, and maybe I'll need to create systems around that, and it creates more troubles than actually help. But then the why, it's there's so many possibilities out there when you focus on the why, not on how many more cookies do I need to sell, and that is much more powerful. I didn't figure it out yet, how am I going to go about it. Right now Patreon is the best solution for me, because there's so many things I'd like to say, and I think there's a lot of people who are hungry for those kind of conversations what we just had here.
Absolutely. And I think the thing to say is, you keep following the why, and you keep doing what you do, and you keep expanding the conversations and reaching more people, then the how becomes obvious in time, doesn't it? It's the trusting, it's the sticking, it's the staying, it's the showing up, it's the being consistent. And I think what's left for me to say is, I look forward to carrying on watching your journey. I look forward to supporting your journey. I look forward to seeing where it goes. I look forward to seeing how it happens. I look forward to seeing, I think just from speaking to you today, I don't know who at some point is going to hear this. They're either watching it live, and thank you to everyone who has. We've had quite, people coming on and off. We don't know exactly who they are on StreamYard, but, just to really say thank you for everyone's time and attention, and people who are listening as well. Peter, who knows how many people have heard your story and just gone, what? Wait, you mean I could just do something, even though I feel like I haven't got any power and I haven't got anything? That's just magic. You start inspiring people to do that, guess what? They're going to start coming to you for hey, how do I do this? Who knows? There's everyone's got their version of Stol Coffee, who want to do that kind of thing. So I really appreciate your honesty and your sharing. And I really appreciate you and all that you stand for and what you do in Penarth. And I appreciate your time and your attention tonight. And, we've been on for 2.5 hours. I continue to, Joe Rogan is one of my favorite people, podcasting people, love him or hate him, whoever's listening to this, but he's one of my favorite people. And, that one of the things that he inspires me to do is do podcasts that are this long and have conversations that go that deep and, really go there. So I also thank you for, you have a busy life and you have children, and thank you to Naomi for, letting us be with you tonight and not have you, there with the family.
She's still awake, so that's okay. Yeah. We're saying thank you to Naomi. We're saying thank you to Naomi for allowing me to do 2.5 hours of stupid talking. You can say it. You can say it.
You're welcome.
Oh, bless you. And and really, it's like I look forward to speaking to you again in, I don't know, we'll see, 6 months, a year
On a Sunday.
I'm not there this Sunday. I'm up at my grandma's, but I'm coming down on Tuesday this week. Diana said there's something going on Tuesday that she wants to come down.
Tuesday is today.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Next Tuesday.
I brew more coffee because you have a big flask. So.
You don't have to fill up.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's okay.
So yeah, I really look forward to your journey, and I hope that anyone listening has found value. If you want to follow and find Peter, like we said earlier, if you missed it, his Instagram is epic. It's also very inspiring. If you look up Patreon and Stol Coffee, you can pay it forward and buy someone a coffee and cookie that you don't know. So if you've got an extra $5 and you're in a position because you've built up that you're ready to give, then please, if you've been inspired by Peter, then do it via Patreon and do it through Peter. He's given us all the gift of giving. It's such a beautiful thing.
You know what I like to see? Can I have a wish? Can I have a wish?
Yeah, you can always have a wish.
I like people to cook pasta, eat it with just aioli, just a bit of butter and lemon juice, right? Cook pasta and take a photo and tag me on Instagram.
Cool.
It would be
I love
great.
that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Cook pasta, and I'll do the same. Yeah, simple things done right. Everybody has got pasta in their cupboards. Everybody can do it. Change. I actually had a conversation about this with someone in the water yesterday. She said, I'm starting the week, in the best way possible. It's Monday and I'm in the water and it's 7 a.m. and I'm cold. And I thought about, that's bad. That's cool, man. That's cool. And I lost the ability over the last year and a bit, to feel the weekend is weekend and Monday is Monday.
Yeah.
There's another day and I'm doing what I care about. And today just happened to be in the water. And that's cool. Yeah. It's cool and cool, right?
Yeah.
And the change can happen now. The best time to change something is now. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, it's now. So if you're hungry, go and make some pasta. But like just pasta, nothing else. Get some spaghetti penne or whatever you have in the cupboard and cook it. And simple, yeah. And look into the water, like just pay attention. It's boiling. Put a bit of salt in it. Like sea salt is the best. Yeah, or rock salt, like no table salt,
natural
just
salt,
actual
salt with minerals in it.
Yeah, just a pinch. Yeah, just a pinch. Trust me, it's not gonna stick if you pay attention to it. And just find what works for you. Just with that pasta, it's a very, very simple thing, and I'd love to see how you grow your cookbook at home from your own little simple experiences and those little decisions you make every single day. Will Smith said that, and I think my mother said that for some strange reason, the same thing, that your life is created from those little decisions. And if those little decisions are the brick, and you put that brick, you have a choice of how do you put that brick. Are you going to perfectly lay it as perfect as you can in a beautiful straight line? At some point you have a beautiful wall. You can also just throw them, and then what you have after a while, it's just a pile of bricks. The choice is yours. You make the right one for you, so you can make the better one for your others as well. Thanks for having me. You're cool. And cool.
Thanks. You too. It's a pleasure. Just really just super grateful. What we'll do is we'll end the broadcast, and then we'll just have a quick a private goodbye. I get you all to myself for a couple of minutes just to say goodnight. And again, thank you to you. Thank you to the listeners. Thank you for everyone that supports me. Thank you for everyone that shows up for me. Thank you for everyone that shows up for you. Thank you for just community and being with us. And again, if anyone wants more of this kind of stuff, please subscribe, please like, please share. If you found this useful and you think it's valuable, please share it. And also
cook pasta.
Cook pasta, man, and tag Peter in it. And also if you want to be in the Telegram group, I'll put the link in the comments so that you guys can join in. We are not, I think sometimes when people are on podcasts, everyone's like, oh, they're like these people that we can't go and talk to. And the thing that I always say as well is if you need something, pick up the phone, get on my, get on my website, hit Peter up with a DM. If you've got a question from this podcast, please, ask it in the comments, reach out to us. We're human beings. Guess what? We love community. If you haven't guessed that now, you probably won't. Don't be strangers. So if this podcast has brought up anything for you, get in touch.
You know why? Because together is better.
Together is better, man. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter. Bye-bye, everyone.
Cheers.